Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be doing something very, very special. Today we have a roundtable of collaborators from all over the world. First of all, I'm going to just introduce who we are and why we're doing this. So the UCM network was created generally as a response to a lot of the nonsense that we have been seeing around the world. And when I say nonsense, let me just be very clear before we start anything. This is not a political discussion. This is not a religious discussion. This is not a discussion about who's vaxxed and who's not vaxxed. We don't care whether you're vaxxed or whether you're not vaxxed. What we care about is how you treat each other. How do you treat each other? Do you like living the way you're living? I'm here with my co-host, Monty Dean. Monty, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, I'm Monty. Do you want me to expand on that, or is that?
It would be nice if you expanded on that, Monty.
Right. I'm the comedian of the group, so there'll be jokes. Now, if they don't work, that's still funny. Just remember that. So if they don't make you laugh, I'm terrible, and that makes you funny. I used to, I do a comedy show with Andrew Bartzis, but he's on an assignment at the moment. And I also have the Monty Dean Show, which is my podcast, and I have my weekly show on Revolution Radio called Planet Collingwood, which is wordplay on Planet Hollywood. And basically my sort of MO is to look at everything through a comedic bent. And so transmuting heavy subjects through comedy. And that's why the alphabet agencies leave me alone, because I'm silly, but there's underlining all the information under that. So David said, please bring it in, because if we're getting really intense and hard, I can just, two guys walk into a bar, you think the second one would have seen it. I'm sort of that type of person. So.
Okay. Yeah, we should have kept it short. We should have kept it short this time around.
It was short.
Yeah, no, I think it was short. So, okay, guys, look, we're here to deal with the solutions. Now, for those of you who actually still watch TV, who's still on Facebook, who's still on social media, you know the negativity that's out there. I am first going to do the following. I'm going to give you a general overview of what we're going to do. Then I'm going to introduce our roundtable guest. First of all, I'm very excited because this has been a collaboration that's been a long time coming. Let me tell you this story. There's a point in time when you get sick of all the negativity, when you get sick of all people trying to fill your life with poison day in and day out. In this broadcast that we're doing right now, we're going to be examining all the problems. We're going to be offering solutions that are positive solutions. We're not going to be concentrating on the negative, because everybody in this group is pretty much gregarious anyway. So what we're going to be doing, first of all, is expanding on what has been happening. So let me just introduce the support team that we have. We have Nikki D, who is going to be our chat moderator. Nikki, are you around?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes, I'm here. Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
So Nikki is the referee, and she's going to keep everything decent in the chat room. Do not attack each other. Rules are simple. Don't attack each other. Don't attack the host. Should you find a particular host really hot, you may absolutely say so.
Just once.
However, don't get like too specific with the hot part, okay? Right? So we're going to try to keep it as clean as possible. We're not doing censorship in any kind of way, but if Karen's there, right? So we're not doing censorship in that sort of way, but we want to have fun in this broadcast, and we want to keep it clean, okay? So we're going to stay away from the negativity. In terms of, go ahead.
Quick question: is this a family show, or is this an adult show? Or because if I get excited, I may start speaking Australian, which is peppered through a lot of swear words. So if I know it's a family show, I can say heck a lot.
I'm good with it. I'm good with whatever, Monty, and I'm good with whatever you guys want to talk about in the chat. But what we really want to talk about is solutions to the horrible stuff that has been going on for the last 2 years. And so what we're going to be doing, as I said to you before, is first of all stating the problems. So Robert, I also want to introduce, who is our producer. Robert, say hello to your loving audience.
Hello, loving audience. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, great.
Nice echo.
So since Robert didn't introduce himself, I'm going to introduce Robert. He is an A1 producer. He produces pretty much all the shows on Galactic Historian, and he's pretty talented. He does pretty much all the shows that you would have seen, whether it be the shows that Monty's on or whoever else is on. I believe Jen is also in the audience. Jen, you want to talk to the audience? Jen?
Hello, everyone. I'm here in the Philippines at 5 a.m. in the morning. You can hear the roosters. So, yeah. Welcome, everyone.
Okay, and last and not least, we have someone who can't be here because she's watching the live streams on the various pages. Before we begin, I want to say for those of you who had a mix-up with regard to the stream in terms of the key to get in the stream, if you guys want to get into the stream, the Zoom key is 301-629-8839. I'm going to repeat that for you guys. It's 301-629-8839. Let me tell you why you should get into this room, because we have bonus packages for you. We have free stuff for you, and it's not just like useless free stuff. We have stuff that can change your life inside our bonus packages. So if you guys are watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, the various platforms we're sending this out to, please come into the chat room. The next order of business is why we are here. So I was telling you this story. I get sick of all the negativity that's been put out there. So I decided to do something unique. What I decided to do is cover the internet for people who were not fake, people who were not just in it for the money, people who were not just in it because they feel like being shown as I am on the internet. What we have done here is we have gone throughout the internet and we've found genuine people to give solutions to you guys, okay? To stem the tide, the rising tide, like the tidal wave of negativity that's out there in social media and on the news. We're going to be examining a lot of things. We're going to be examining censorship. We're going to be examining the climate that we're living in. We're going to be examining how this particular illness that is over the planet has affected a lot of people and their family relations. I don't care what side of the fence you drop on with regard to the illness issue. As I said, I don't care whether you're vaxxed, whether you're not vaxxed, whether you believe or whether you don't believe. All I care about is how you treat each other, okay? So how do you treat each other? Do you like living like this? This is the only question I have for this audience. Do you like living the way you are living right now? Okay, because you guys are divided. The person who's living next to you, you might not like their choice in terms of whether they decided to go with the flow or whether they decided to go against the flow. But what happened to the days when we used to actually sit down and actually talk to each other? Would you like to get back to that? That's what we want to get back to, okay? And so let me talk about our lineup. Straight up in the lineup, we have Melissa Hawking. She is a medical intuitive and a quantum healer. I'm going to let Melissa talk about herself. Melissa, introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, maybe we should get Monty to introduce me. Talking about yourself's terrible. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad so many of you are in the room. I'm actually glad you're in the Zoom room. As David said, if you're watching a live stream, jump in the Zoom room because there's prezzies, there's gifts. Get on in there. There's some really great stuff that you can get.
Quickly, I'll just quickly translate. Prezzies is Australian for presents.
Oh, goodness. There's free gifts. Sorry, I'll go into my global language. I am very much Australian. This is not a speech impediment. It's a natural accent. I am the lead facilitator and the head of QBI Healing. We work in quantum bioenergetics. I'm going to talk to you a lot more about that later on, and I'm going to give you some fantastic things you can do to enhance your health, to help others around you, to help yourself feel stronger and more empowered in you again. we've got some great people that are sharing with you today. We're going to talk about the long-term effects. We've been doing this for 18 months, 2 years now, and it has had a long-term effect on the general human psyche. And we've got the fabulous Ches, the stress master, that's going to talk to you about that as well. I have in my little package for you, my freebie, I'm actually going to hand you a free self-healing session. I'm going to teach you how to actually use quantum bioenergetics, to use a quantum communicative frequency through your own body to accelerate the cellular vibration of your body and to increase your health. And so ahead of us, we have some really cool stuff. You're going to love this thing. This little session that I'm going to teach you, you can use forever, wherever you like, whenever you need it, and it'll only make you feel better and better. So you can look me up at qbihealing.com. I'm a few things. I'm an author. Can you see that? No, you can't. Now I'm trying to go there. There you go.
Yeah.
The old background's wreaking havoc. Author, speaker, I do all of that great stuff. My story goes way back, but I'll go into that later because you need to meet everyone else that's in this amazing round table. So I'll hand it back to David to hand it to the next.
Okay. Sure. And next up, we have Coach Shelley. Coach Shelley, please unmute and introduce yourself to the audience. Coach Shelley is a remarkable woman. She is the author and creator of Conscious Parenting. Boy, do we need that now. So Shelley, you want to introduce yourself? Go ahead, take the floor.
Thank you, David. My name is Shelley Palmer. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. I've been married for 31 years and I owned a preschool. And the wonderful thing about a preschool is I had 3 children. I stayed home with my children when they were growing up, but you can kind of manipulate children a little bit to get them to do what you want, but you can't manipulate 10. And so suddenly when I was in a room with, at the time I had 7 5-year-old boys, and I basically would leave the room and cry because I didn't know how to get them to do the things that I wanted them to do without hurting each other. And I had to learn because I couldn't walk away. And I developed these wonderful skills to the point of really teaching children and teachers and parents how to create an environment where children can win. And also how to create an environment where we don't get so stressed out and angry. I never yell at children anymore. And I know, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but in the last 2 years, when so many kids have been home with their parents, you just have to think into your body and think about a time that maybe your parent came out that you never wanted that to happen, or maybe there was a situation that you're not so happy about. And I'm here to help you have a better environment in your home. Also I'm here for the children, really. I'm not here for the parents. I'm here to protect the children of our world.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have the stress master, Ches Moulton. Now, I've known Ches the longest on this panel. I know what this man is capable of. He is decided to devote himself and his life to helping people relieve stress, because at the root of a lot of our problems it starts with the stress, right? Now, Ches is going to give you really, really good tips for overcoming your stress. Ches, you want to introduce yourself?
I appreciate that. Thank you, David. Good evening, good night, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are around the world. And thank you for coming in and joining us today, whichever day that may be on the calendar for you, wherever you are. My background is psychotherapy, hypnotherapy. I've been a volunteer probation officer when I was a teenager. I've spent David's right, I've spent my life in the service of others. I've always interfaced with other people, never spent my life sitting in a cubicle with a calculator or anything. Never had that privilege to do that, but I've always interacted with people. I've spent my career studying nature. I'm not talking about the trees and the plants. I'm not talking about the the animals out in the field. I'm talking about human nature. And I've devoted my career to studying and researching and writing about people and how we think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things. So that's what I've done. When I do a couple of things. I've been doing this in one form or another for about 30 years. And way back when, I started to realize, everybody keeps telling me stuff about what's going on in their life and asking me to help them out. And there seems to be one common denominator, and it always comes down to stress. Stress always seemed to be in the equation. And so that's when I realized, well, stress is either the cause of or the result of most of what is wrong with people naturally in their life. And so that's why I dedicated myself then to go out and sort of drill down, and that's why I've become a certified stress management consultant. That's my special field now, and that's what I do. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more later and give you some, as David said, give you some tips and techniques and talk about some of the tools that you already have that will help you be able to manage your stress. And I'll leave it there for now and send it back to David. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you so much. And next to Chess, we have Shay Ali. Shay is the founder of Inspired Stage. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a sort of European TED Talk style stage event. And Shay is going to be starting back her platform. And I am actually very happy about that. And I'm hoping that I can be of some help to her in the future. Shay, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, David, and thank you for having me on. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone out there. My name's Shay. I set up Inspired Stage because one of my passions is speaking and using your voice, which I also do for my career as a barrister. So for those of you not from England, that is a lawyer that goes to court. So I've spent about 19 years doing that. And the passion really is, what is your message? What is your voice? And from when I was very little, I wanted to support those that didn't have the confidence to stand up for themselves when you're teased in the playground and you're thinking, I don't know what to say. I always wanted to be that woman that knew exactly what to say and how to stand up to those bullies. So I do that for a living now. And I also host Inspired Stage for those that do have a voice and want to share what it is that they want to share with the world. So we started in London, where I live, and we were very fortunate pre-pandemic to expand to 6 other European cities. We're open to expanding anywhere, actually. If you have a city where you'd like to host an Inspired, we'd love to have you. Well, at pandemic, we were kind of confined to our homes, but thankfully our cities all want us back. So we're hoping for a January in-person relaunch, and we have plenty of inspired online content, which we use to keep everyone entertained during lockdown also. Tonight I'm going to be meshing the two, really. I always kind of playfully tell some stories from the courtroom and what you can learn from them. So I'm going to be talking about inspirations from the courtroom, some silly stories, real life stories that have come up, and how we can really apply them to life. So I hope you enjoy it, and obviously open to any questions you guys have, and thrilled to be here with you all.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shay. I'm going to move on to Patty Lucia. Patty Lucia is a master storyteller, right? This lady is an educator. She is an author, and she is in it for the long haul, dedicated her life to other people's stories, actually, which is a wonderful thing. Patty, introduce yourself.
There we go. Hello, everyone, and it's such an honor to be here with all of my co-panelists and with all of you in the audience. It is such a thrill to create such a gathering place. We so desperately need that, right? Gathering places. So again, my name is Patty Lucia. I am the host of a podcast, Story Bridge with Patty Lucia. I'm also an author, and every day I go to work and I teach teenagers English, and I teach them about the power of words and the power of story. One of the thrilling things for me is when they actually get how powerful their own words are and how powerful their own stories are. So for instance, I teach them the origins of spelling, and that hundreds of years ago, when humans were, when most people were learning how to read and write, words were seen as so powerful. They were considered spells. You could cast a good spell or you could cast a bad spell, and that's where cursing came from. And I in my students also, often you see that look in their eyes, like, oh my God, that's where it comes from. And I think most adults have we've lost our way in terms of the power of our own words and the power of story. And of course, we see it in the world today, what words can really do. I often tell my students that thing, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That was a crock of shit, because I actually can't say that, but everyone agrees that just isn't true. So I teach a lot about that, and I love what I do, working with teenagers. In the lockdown in 2020, I made a commitment to myself to finally write that book. I'd been walking around with a cardboard box of my own stories, and I was able to use the time during the lockdown for self-healing, for self-nurturing, and so forth. And part of that, a vital part of that, was writing my memoir. I have it here, and through that process, learned how healing that really is, and that sent me on a whole other mission to use my skills and my experience to help others tell their stories and to write their stories, because I saw firsthand how healing it is to write our stories down, to tell our stories. The process of that is amazing and so healing. And so that's what I'll be talking to you more about later. I just had another book come out go to print this week. It's a cookbook with stories from the 10 years that I ran a Scratch Kitchen Cafe. So recipes and cafe stories. So, and that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Robert. And so that's it. I will say more about this later and share a couple of stories. And thank you all so very much for joining us this evening and helping us write an amazing collective story together this evening and forward.
Thank you so much. Did I cover everyone? Is there anyone else in the roundtable that I missed? Nope.
We can introduce all the audience members if you like.
No, that'll take a little while.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know how to get into the chat room, the number is 301-629-8839. Come in, and as I said, we're rewarding everyone who is inside this chat room right now. So that is going to come a little bit later. So let us state the problem. Robert, you want to pull up the graphic about the hate crime rate so that the audience can see this? Because I did a little bit of research myself, you see. Our producer. Yeah. All right, so let's take a little bit of a look at the hate crimes. Now, even though it's less, I want you to pay attention to this graphic. The source is from NPR, Joe Hernandez, in 2021. Now, look at the dates of these hate crimes, 2008 and 2020. Do you want to know what's significant about these dates? Because it took 10 years for us to reach that level again. Actually, it's 12. right? To 2008 to 2020. 2008 was when the stock market crashed, financial crash. And so you had 7,783 hate crimes. In 2020, you had 7,759 hate crimes. In between, the hate crimes dropped. That alone should tell you something very important. When there is crisis, people begin to flake out and people begin to hate a lot more. Okay? So it took 12 years and we're back to this level of hate crimes, and that is just in the US. Robert, just put up any other graphic, any one of those graphics, because I did a little bit of research. Now, at the same time, in 2020, church relief donations under the CARES Act in the United States. The Catholic Church received $1.4 billion US dollars to $3.5 billion US dollars. Okay, these are donations that were made to churches by the government. The total religious aid was between 6 to 10 billion US dollars. The source is the Associated Press. Now, the next question that obviously stems from this is, did this money reach the parishioners? But we know that's not true because people were lining up for food. That's really suspect, but this is the state of the world that we live in. Robert, any other graphic, please? This is the divorce rate. The Life Project is the source. Maddie Savage is the author. Leading British law firm Stewart's logged a 122%, you can leave it at that, increase in inquiries of divorce between July and October last year, compared with the same period the year before. That would have been 2019. Charities Citizens Advice reported a spike in searches for online advice on ending a relationship. In the US, a major legal contract creation site recently announced a 34% increase in sales of its basic divorce agreement, with newlyweds who got married in the previous 5 months making up 20% of the sales. These are newlyweds. There has been a similar pattern in China, and which had one of the world's strictest lockdowns at the start of the pandemic. The same is true in Sweden, which until recently largely relied on voluntary guidelines to try to slow the spread of COVID-19. What does this say to you? Clearly, people were stressed, and clearly people couldn't wait to get away from each other. And we're talking about newlyweds when you're supposed to be in that love phase. Okay, Robert, I think we have another graphic going up. Yeah. And that would be the unemployment rate. Okay. So as you can see by country, people lost a lot of jobs all over the world, right? And the source is bbc.com. Now, the reason why I put these graphics up, Robert, you can take them down right now. The reason why I put these graphics up is a very simple reason. This is where we are. This is the problem. Every major institution that you guys hold there, whether it be employment, whether it be family relationships, whether it be just getting a loan, if you're into that thing, your jobs or whatever else, every major institution has taken a hit. And then people start to hate. And then you have videos of people fighting in a supermarket aisle over toilet paper. Like, you guys remember that, okay?
Yeah, it happened in Sydney.
I didn't want to have to say that. I didn't want to have to locate it, geolocate it, right? But you have people fighting in the supermarket aisles over toilet paper. There's only one question that I have for the audience. You guys can actually answer me if you feel the need to. Do you like living like this? Do you like living like this? And if you don't like living like this, what are you going to do about it? I know what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about it in my section when I get to talk. But this is not my time to talk. I actually want to bring the stress master in. Chess, are you there? You have the floor, sir.
Here I are. Thank you very much, David. Yes, good evening again, everybody. Let me run through a few things here quickly if I can. David mentioned earlier at the very top of the show, he talked about how you treat yourself. How you treat others. And what that brought to mind is, I gave the plot away, is that, so we've been taught, we were taught that it's not in here, that it's all out there. Don't concentrate on ourselves so much because then we would be dismissed as being selfish and conceited. The word narcissistic was too big of a word. We were just trying to get our heads around the word conceited and I before E and all that when we were in the schoolyard. So of course we comply to that. But we grow up to find out that the truth is that it's in here. It starts in here. I can't do to you more than I'm doing to myself. So I can't love you at a 9 or a 10 if I'm only loving myself at a 5 or a 4. I can't trust you more than I trust myself. I can't trust you at an 8 or a 9 if I only trust myself. I can't respect you more than I respect myself, not in a real way. So it all starts in here. So I would like to throw this out to everybody listening. The question then is, how do you treat yourself? And that's what I'm going to talk about this evening in my time frame now. So let's look at the current situation as we have seen it already with the statistics. I mean, look, even in normal, in what we now call the normal times, back in the old days, before in the UK here, March the 23rd last year, for a lot of people with elevated stress, the water level is up to here. Yeah? Good. So the current situation we find ourselves in, I have come across three types of people, three categories of people. People who are on furlough, who are sitting home, not working, stressed out because they don't know if they have a job to go back to, and if they do go back, if they'll only be called back in so they can be, officially dismissed from their job. There are people who are working, fortunate enough to be working through the pandemic, who are stressed out because they've got more to do than they can get done because some of the people have been sent home on furlough, and they're also stressed because they don't know whether they're going to have a job tomorrow or next week. And then we have the people who own the businesses, and their stress levels are off the charts as well because they don't know if they're going to have a business to run tomorrow or next week. So these are the three types of people that I've run into in the last 18 months, the last 2 years, and the stress levels are off the charts, and they're only going to go higher before they start to come down. That's the current situation. Let's define what stress is. Now, I find that people use stress as a verb. I'm stressed out. I've got stressed. I'm stressed. I'm having stress. Stress is really a noun because stress is a word that describes a mechanism inside of us that we're all built with. And that's that stress mechanism. That's what I call positive stress that brings up that fight, flight, or freeze syndrome in us. That's the sympathetic nervous system that cuts in when we feel that we have some kind of life-threatening or really hyper-dangerous situation. Like if we're walking down the path in Southeast Asia on a trekking holiday and we go around the corner and the turn and there's a lion or a tiger there. That's when everything kicks in. That's when we make a decision whether we're going to fight, whether we're going to take off, or whether we're going to freeze and try and blend in and find out what happens after that. So this is the definition of stress. And stress is something that happens when our ability to cope, when demand on us outstrips supply, and that's when that stress system kicks in. Now, that's what it is. But let's talk about what stress is not for a moment. So then we can find out what it really is and where it comes from and what causes our stress. Stress is not medical. Now I'm going to repeat that. Stress is not medical. I know there are a lot of people listening who are or know people who have symptoms of stress, but it's not the stress itself. And one of the things that I find that's misaligned in the system out there is that a system, usually for the most part, starts to focus on the symptom of the stress and not the stress itself or the cause of the stress. And what I do in my practice when I have my private clients and when I stand up in front of a room full of people in various parts of the world where I live and work, I talk about the causes, because if we're not talking about the causes, we're wasting oxygen. So stress is not medical. Stress is not mental. Now, I know there's a lot of people who say, hang on a second, Chess, isn't having good mental health, isn't that a good thing? Well, it is. You're right. But we're not born with stress levels so high that we find ourselves in the positions that we find ourselves in when we have elevated levels of stress. So again, stress is not mental. That's a symptom of something else. So then it comes down to, if it's not medical and it's not mental, then what is it? Well, stress is, so where does the stress come from? And what is the cause of stress? So the cause of stress and the solution to stress is the same word. That word is spelled Y-O-U. So you are the cause of your stress and you are the solution to your stress. And now let me explain that a little bit more. So if I'm going to talk about you and I'm going to put the emphasis on you, which I did right from the beginning of my oracle of my speaking here, then let's talk about you and let's find out who you are. So if you're a human and you're alive on the planet today and you're functioning, then there's only 3 things that you do. If you're doing a 4th thing, then you're not from this planet, which means you could run this planet. I'll be your manager and we'll make millions, I'm sure. But I'm just going to stick my head, I'm just going to go on a limb here. I'm just going to presume that people on the call and the listening to this in the recorded version, that you're going to identify as humans and that this is your native planet. If that's the case, then there are only 3 things you do. You think, you feel, and you behave. And that's it. Now, behavior can be subdivided into actions and reactions. That's it. But there are these 3 fingers over here. What do they stand for? Well, this is what's happening on your native planet, on planet Earth. There are only 3 things on planet Earth. There are people, there are places, and there are things. Or as some of my friends back in Canada like to call it, stuff. But that's all there is. So it's how we think, feel, and behave in relation to people, places, and things that dictate the quality of our life, that determine the level of our stress. So when we're talking about stress, then let's talk about the 2 types of stress there are. And I mentioned earlier positive stress, which is that inbuilt system that we have. So when somebody tells you that they can help you eliminate your stress, run as fast as you can, because you can't eliminate stress, and you wouldn't want to, because when that stress mechanism kicks in, it potentially may save your life. But what happens in today's society is that people see everything as if it was a tiger staring them down the path from 50 meters or 50 yards ahead when they're on a trekking holiday in Southeast Asia. And getting caught at the roundabout, getting caught in traffic at an intersection and being 10 or 20 or 30 minutes late for a meeting is not the same as having a tiger staring you down the path. But people, it just stays up there. And of course, when it goes up and stays up, it never gets a chance to come back down, which is your, which I called it earlier, sympathetic, it was your parasympathetic. Your sympathetic nervous system is what brings it down. And if you see everything as if it was a tiger staring you in the eyeballs 50 meters down the road, then you're not going to get back down. So when it stays up, that's what we call then chronic stress. There are 4 negative stressors. So let's talk about negative stress, which is what everybody's on about. There are 4 negative stressors. There are only 4. There's time, anticipation, situation, and encounter. Those are the 4 negative stressors. That's it. So time is fixed. Time is not something that's manageable. Time management techniques only address the symptoms, don't they? And we're talking here about the cause. So again, then, when it comes to thinking about how we manage our time, we can't manage the time. We can only manage ourselves within the time that we have. So again, it comes back to how we think, feel, and behave in relation to the time that we have, which is a thing. Anticipation. I find a lot of my clients, a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years, they suffer from anticipatory stress. This is the thing that's got them going. This is where their negative stress comes from. It's all about the future for them. They see it as failure at best and disaster at the worst. And if you're living a life where you are concentrating on failure and that's your best case scenario, then that's why you're stressed. So I would think that you would want to get some clarity on what can happen when you're having that negative self-talk, that negative rant. Do yourself a favor. If you're having a negative self-talk rant for 10 or 15 minutes, balance it out by giving yourself a pause. So, what if it all goes wrong? What if the sky falls in? What if they don't sign the contract? What if they don't show up on time? What if it all goes bad? Okay, fine, no problem. Have that rant. Get it out of your system. But then have a positive. Well, what happens if they do sign that? What happens if it all goes well? What happens if they do show up? What happens if it all goes according to plan? Give yourself a break, and probably the people around you as well, by having a positive self-talk rant. Okay? Once again, it's about how you think, feel, and behave, right? And thinking comes first, and then the feelings and the behaviors come after that. Situation stress, that third negative stressor, situation. Those are people who think that feel that they don't have any control over events. They're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid that they might feel foolish or be embarrassed in front of their colleagues or their friends or people. And then you have people divided. People are afraid that they'll feel foolish in front of people they know. And then you have people who are afraid that they feel foolish in front of strangers. And then there's another pie that's divided into two halves. So I would encourage you just to become aware of your feelings that lead to those different behaviors, and have more confidence in yourself that you know more about you than most other people do. And you're going to get through if you give yourself a break. The fourth one, encounter. Well, that's people who are stressed out because they have to interact with people who sometimes might be, unpredictable, maybe unlikable. We all have a few of those in our life, I suppose. I mean the unpredictable ones, not the unlikable ones. So it's about people skills. It's about acquiring some emotional intelligence skills. It's about acquiring social skills. And you're quickly starting to recognize, I hope, that particularly these last three, anticipatory, situation, and encounter, all are first cousins to each other. And they kind of intermingle with each other and go back and forth with each other, sometimes in a couple in seconds, in minutes. And we vacillate back and forth between them. So that's a little bit about what stress is, what it's not, where it comes from, and how to think about it. I obviously don't have the time to this evening, at least not yet. Anyways, we get into the Q&A, more may come up. But I just want to give you that sort of framework, because I find that sometimes for a lot of people, just having that knowledge and being able to put some labels on some of the things that they know are happening helps them to be able to organize their stress, bring it down, and be able to manage it at a sustainable level going forward. Just in closing here, for just a brief second, if I may, I just want to let you know that, yes, I'm also an author. Let's not leave Patty by herself out there, and Melissa. I wrote this book back in 2015, Choice and Change, How to Have a Healthy Relationship with Ourselves and Others. It's a book that tells us about who we are, how we got this way, and of course what we can do if we want to change. When it was uploaded to the internet in 2015, it became an international bestseller in less than a week, and I was pretty proud of that. Last March, just at the beginning of the lockdown here in the UK where I now live, I completed my second book, How to Get Control of Your Stress. If you're interested in the book, I think there's a link somewhere coming at you in the chat or in the places where you can pick up the link. You can either get the book, either one, but what I would encourage you to do is check for those of you who are more digital, I have a course online, which I think there's also a link there somewhere where you can pick up. You can get, I put an e-course together, which I'm quite proud of, that is based on this particular book. So if you don't want to read and you want the video instead, go get the e-course. I think I'm sort of out of my time right now, and I appreciate everybody for listening to me. I hope you've been able to get something out of what I've said that might be able to help you in your endeavors in the course of the next few days, the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much for taking the time, for making the time to come into the room and listen to me. Thank you very much. And David, I'll pass it back to you with grace.
Excellent, Chess. As I said to you, this man is accomplished as a stress management consultant. When I went looking for people to create this network and platform, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about it. And at the same time, I want to take a strip off of the esoteric people who are out there. And I want to say something to you guys. I love you all dearly. I do. Been practicing yoga since I was 13 years old, right? I've just been through every spiritual community from that time. But the world is going to hell. My question to the esoteric community, what are y'all doing about it? Simple question. Simple question. What are you guys doing about it? Because
so much about stress, I lit a cigarette. So that's how I did it. I do have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Can stress be addictive?
No, the stress itself is not addictive, but the ramifications of it and the whole the hormones and the chemicals that fire off in our brain, that can be addictive, but not stress itself, because it's a mechanism. They say it's a noun, not a verb.
Yeah, so it's basically people not addicted to stress, but they get addicted to how it affects the physiology. And I coined a great quote from watching Andrew, the Galactic Historian, because a lot of the calls that he gets, which is usually this time of the day that he does it, it's me, isn't it? And that's what you started with stress. It's like, well, you create it, but also you can deal with it. It all comes down to you. And so it's me, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there are two types of addiction. There's substance addiction, which is what it says on the tin. Anything you can get inside of you, any way you can get it inside of you. Yeah. And then there's process addiction. And what you're talking about is more on the side of process addiction, which is actually what this book is about. This is a manual that explains process addiction and how to manage yourself out of it. Yeah, so good.
Jess, what about institutionalized stress?
I'm sorry?
Institutionalized stress. So would you say that they're like traditions of stress, which are institutionalized? As an example, the wedding day for a bride.
Yep. So I'm glad you brought that up. So how much time do we have? So here's the thing. We've been taught, we were taught, listen, if you're not worried about it, if you're not stressed out about it, if you're not taking it serious, then you don't matter. Then you're not taking it serious. So you've got to get stressed out. You've got to get all worked up into a leather in order for me to believe that you're taking it serious. That's what we've been taught, correct?
Yes, thank you so much, because Santo thank you so much, because Santo actually said addicted to the drama.
Yeah, that's
in the chat room.
I'm going to steal that one from whoever said it. I love it. Let me write that one down now.
Stop watching soap operas. That's basically the first step. Stop watching soap operas, because you start.
What about reality shows?
They're not reality though. They're all fake and like it's a false reality. And well, remember there was a movie called Calhoun, the first reality TV film. It's like, oh, you mean a documentary?
I
have a
remember when
friend.
I first when I first came to the UK about 10 years ago, I was living in the Brentwood area in Essex, and that's where the this program called TOWIE, I think it is produced. And they weren't going to let me anywhere near those people because if I sorted them out, there'd be no program anymore because they were all so codependent and so addicted and so screwed up.
Yeah.
I mean, the characters, not the actors. I don't know the actors.
Yeah, I think it's The Only Way is Essex is the program.
That's what it is.
I'm ashamed to know that.
Yeah, they banned me from the set. I wasn't allowed anywhere near it.
Well, you don't want to
Okay.
say anyway, come on.
Okay, cool. All right, so I want to move on to Melissa Hawkins. She has a lot to say. So, Melissa, you are the quantum healing practitioner and you're a medical intuitive. What are you seeing in these last 2 years that has really made a change in our living environment? Talk to us.
All righty then. I was happily just enjoying you guys then, but all right, I will step in here. Look, the last 2 years we've seen an enormous shift. And to those, the esoteric that David was just shouting out to, I'm absolutely going to start talking multidimensionalism. We're going to start talking quantum physics, quantum communication, and as I mentioned earlier, quantum bioenergetics. I'm going to start talking about what the effect has had on the vibratory state of the human biology. I'm going to talk about what it's doing on all levels, multidimensional with that as well. So yeah, we're going to talk things like spirit and soul and things too. So if the woo-woo worries you, I'm here to worry you. Sorry about that.
More stress, yay.
I'm going to give you a little background of where I come from though, because I don't sound like, for the person asking that, astrology is not my specialty and I don't pretend that it is. I'm really sorry about that. But there's so many great people that are good at that. My background, because I don't sound like I'm not wearing a caftan and wafting about the room. I have a background in the military. I was an officer in the military. I've studied science. I had this incredibly, conventional, very mathematical Newtonian kind of existence when it became really clear that I couldn't ignore anymore that I had this extraordinary gift in the transfer of quantum frequency. And the way that I actually do it, the way that this occurs is through the body. Now, the cool thing about this is that I was born with this gift. I was born with the ability to do this. As a child, I was very much quashed because I was so weird and because I could do all this sort of weird stuff. But the thing that I didn't understand as a child, because I was born like most children are without these filters, was that I could see, and I still can, that every single person around me has the ability to do what I do. You already have the ability to transfer these frequencies and use them to your advantage, to use them for your best. And so I couldn't understand as a kid why people weren't. And of course, people didn't like that I could see straight through them. So it was a colourful childhood. It wasn't an easy childhood. I wasn't an easy child. But about 20 years ago, I came out of the healing closet and it became too obvious that what I was doing was not normal. It wasn't standard. I was working on rehabilitating elite athletes all over the world and I was really good at it. I was getting results that people shouldn't be getting. And it got to the point that I had to just say, look, I actually have this weird thing that comes through my hands, that comes through my body that that for some reason helps people heal themselves faster. So what I've seen as I am looking through people and seeing what's happening around the world in the last 2 years, it's fantastic that I've been able to follow Chairs after what he's just explained about stress, because what I'm seeing is that and actually, Chairs, I hope you still got your mic on, because I wanted to say, could you quickly, before I go into what I'm going to chat about, this long-term stress effect where we're living off such massive doses of cortisol all the time, affecting the adrenals and all of that sort of stuff. What's the actual term for this long-term stress that we're enduring? We're reaching a point of fatigue now where people are just stopping the fight, I guess, or stopping people are getting too tired to actually go against the tide anymore because of the ongoing stress. So
I call it uber chronic stress.
It really is. Uber is a good term for it. But it's just, that's one of the things that I'm seeing. We're watching the actual vibration of the human body actually diminish and get quieter and quieter in its vibrational state from this constant onslaught. Not just of what's occurring through various claims of viruses, various pressures for vaccines, all the politics happening around the world, but we're also seeing so much violence around the world, so much upstanding people going against it, people trying to fight it, where there's so much division. And as a human species, that goes right against us. So we're definitely seeing that. Now, if we work in quantum physics works in a downward causation, where that the higher frequencies have a much greater effect on the lower frequencies. And it's very similar to David Hawkins and his, let me just quote this properly, David Hawkins' map of consciousness, where he operates, it operates exponentially, where that in higher levels of consciousness, it only takes a few people to actually trigger and accelerate exponentially that higher elevation of consciousness for the majority. So quantum physics works in parallel with that, quantum communication, quantum bioenergetics, all of it works with that. That small effect where a few people actually can accelerate and raise their vibration has an exponential osmosis effect on the mass as well. It actually brings it up and helps people accelerate in their vibration. And so as much as we've been, and this is a horrible way to say it, but effectively our psyche and our physicality has been beaten down gradually in the last 18 months, 2 years. Very much the psyche is affected by the fact that you've been disempowered. All of us are being told that there's this extraordinary viral strain that's come out and you have no control. You need to have some synthetic injection to, and again, I'm with David on this, whether you've had vaccination or not, that's absolutely your choice. I stand with you. But, you've been told that it's not in your power for you to actually maintain and sustain your own health. But in fact, I'm going to completely wipe the table and tell you right now, you've always been your best healer. Healing is a system of balance. Healers don't heal, they balance. And no matter what healer you go to, whether you go to your oncologist for a round of chemo, or you go to your massage therapist for deep tissue work, whether you go to your GP for a round of antibiotics, all of those people are trying to achieve the same end. They're trying to bring your body back to balance enough that it can then correct itself. They're using their tool, their knowledge, what they've chosen to be their environment of healing. If you come to me for a session in quantum bioenergetics and I immerse you in that, I'm doing the same thing. I'm creating an environment where you in fact can heal yourself. Now with me, how that works, quantum bioenergetics is the very, very nutshell version of this. But when I immerse you in quantum bioenergetics, what actually occurs is we accelerate the vibration of the cell. The cells start to talk to themselves and your body will prioritize the healing that it needs first. It's extraordinary. As I said, I've been doing this for almost 20 years and thousands of clients. We have published research all over the world. So you're welcome to go to the website, qbihealing.com, or go to melissahockinghughes.com. You can download research. You can have a look at all of it that's going on. But I won't waste your time proving all of that. What I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to share with you a tool that is a phenomenal little self-healing session that you can use anywhere that you like. And it will always make you feel better. Instantaneously, we're working quantum effect. We're not talking timeline here. So I'm going to step out of one of the stress modes. We're going to step out of time here. And in the few seconds that you allow this to flow through you, you will step out of all those stress zones, all of the anticipation, the situation, everything that Chess just mentioned to you, and accelerate the vibration of your body. Now, one of the coolest things about working in this frequency is that it doesn't stop when you stop. Just as someone, if you're on my table and I have you in session, the session doesn't stop when I stop facilitating it. Your body will prioritize what it needs and continues to go. And it varies. The stories I can tell you. But so many stories. Look, buy books. Buy my books. But This will keep going. And the amazing thing with this tool is that it shifts vibration, as I just mentioned before, by osmosis. You will, in fact, if you use this little session in a room, let's put you in a really stressful environment. How about the Thanksgiving dinner table? There's a good one. Catching up with family. The family, imagine everyone's in a fight, everyone's nagging, you're stressed out, you don't want to answer the same questions again. You can do this little self-healing session. And because you accelerate the vibration through yourself and you instantaneously feel so much clearer in yourself, by osmosis, that acceleration vibration is taken on by people around the table too. And so we're going to do this today. I'm going to go through it quickly with you. I will send a link through to Robert. Actually, I haven't sent this link to Robert. I will send a link to Robert where you can go to Vimeo or go to YouTube and you can watch this anytime you want to. I've been nagged to monetize this session. I don't want to. I want everyone to know you have the power to do this for yourself. You are so much more powerful than you know, both in maintaining and sustaining your health and in this life. And so what we're all here for today is to raise you back into remembering just how powerful you are and that there is actually a positive future ahead and in the now for you. Because we're all tired. We are too. Everyone on this roundtable are too. We've all been living this environment alongside you and we get it. Like David said, sick of living like this. We don't want to do this. All right, let's get on to this. So I just call this the mudra self-healing because I'm going to use a little hand position that's called a mudra. Not my specialty again. I work with all sorts of healers. Should mention too, and you probably guessed this, my work crosses very much between the science and the spiritual. I work with some of the greatest spiritual leaders in the world, and yes, the Dalai Lama and all sorts of people like that. And I work with some of the best doctors, scientists, medicos around the world too. Yeah, it's pretty diverse existence, this one. And so one of the things that I've learned along the way, many, many things, is this particular mudra. Now, this self-healing session came out of nowhere for me, and it's still one of the most powerful ones. A lot of people refer to this as the fountain of youth. A lot of people like to use it just purely for how they look as well. But let's start with this. So we're going to start with a little mudra. This is the healing. We're actually going to do this here and now. I'm going to get everyone on the round table to do it as well because they're all awesome. And they'll do it. Your first mudra, I'm going to sit in an awkward position. Your mudra, this is actually called the Dhyana mudra. What you're going to do, you've got your right hand, you're going to sit the fingers of your left hand inside. Hang on, I'll move over. It's the fingers in your left hand, and you're going to put the tips of your thumbs together, not the pads, the tips of your thumb together. So right hand, sit the fingers of your left hand inside, put the tips together, and just sit your hands down in your lap, relax your shoulders. Once you got the position, so this is your position. Now, this mudra is called the Dhyana mudra. I later discovered after I started playing with this and realized how powerful it was, that it's the mudra that apparently brings through spirit or brings through the cosmos, whatever you're comfortable with, brings through all dimensions, all the good stuff. What it's going to do is open up flow. So with your mudra, tips of the thumbs, left fingers inside the right, and just sit that mudra down in your lap, shake your shoulders out. Now we're going to use one of the most powerful tools that you have in this life. We're going to use your physical smile, this thing, right? We're going to actually do that. During this particular little session, I want you to close your eyes. No one's looking at you because everyone's trying this. If you're not missing out, this is your free gift. Well, one of them, it's just the start. You've got your mudra down in your hands. What I want you to do is shake your shoulders out. We're going to close your eyes, take a huge deep breath, fill that chest up until you can't fit another drop in. Then as you exhale, all I want you to do with that mudra in your lap is physically smile. Smile big, man. Get that smile out there. You can, if your eyes closed, you can hear mine happening. So as you breathe out, you smile. All right, first one was wobbly. I can actually see all of you, so I can actually see what's going on. We're going to do this again. Now that you understand the process, get your mudra in place. Tips of the thumbs, not the pads. There's a lot of pads going on out there. Put it in your lap. Shake your shoulders out so you're relaxed, so you've got good flow. Now take that nice deep breath with your eyes closed, and as you exhale, physically smile. That was a better one. The feeling that you're going to have as you do this is you're going to feel a wave of frequency run from the very top of your head right through you, run down through the body like a wave, and you will land inside your feet. And the more that you do this, as happens with using these frequencies that you already have, how cool is it that you can do this? Each time you do it, it gets stronger. And so you can not do this. You can play with it a few times now and then play with it again next year. And so I wonder if that still works, and it's going to be a stronger, palpable physical sensation. Let's do it again one more time. All right, so shake your shoulders out, relax, get your mudra in place. Mudra, there it is. God, the background's wreaking havoc here. Sorry, guys. All right, shake your shoulders out, close your eyes, take a huge deep breath, fill that chest up. And as you exhale, physically smile. That was a better one. That's a great flow. No, you don't have to have your feet flat on the floor. We're working in quantum effect. So you can be lying down, you can be standing up, you can be anywhere. You can be in a crowded train, you can be in a courtroom, you can be anywhere you want. The effect of this little session immediately calms you. Thanks, Jessie, saying it's so cool. So it immediately calms you, immediately accelerates vibration of your cells. You can feel your body talking to itself again. And that's what happens in this acceleration. As those cells are able to communicate more, they remember that they can heal themselves. We see people come in, literally see people who come into the clinic with a cancerous tumor and leave without it. We see the most amazing healings every day working these frequencies. And it's a really powerful tool to use. I'll ask you, Dave, do you want me to run it through one more time? Or I can send the links, you guys can keep practicing that one. But it's a really powerful tool, amazing at improving. You can use it for all sorts of stuff. If you've got a bit of insomnia, you're super stressed out, you're anything going on like that, you can use it anywhere. Or if you just want to feel a bit better while you're watching telly.
Melissa, please run that again.
You want to do it one more time?
Please run that again.
All right, let's do it.
Encore. Yes, I do.
There's all sorts of stuff going through the chats. Okay, let's do it one more time, everybody. So you can have your feet flat on the floor or not. You can be sitting in any position you like. I just want you to shake your shoulders out so you're relaxed. Put your left fingers inside your right fingers, tips of the thumbs together, and then just rest those hands in your lap and relax. With your eyes closed, take that nice deep breath for me. This is going to be a big one. You ready, guys? And as you exhale, physically smile. And feel that wave roll through the body. Oh, that was a good one. That was a great one. Well done, you guys.
Wow.
Really great tool. And I want you to use that for the rest of your life. It's only going to get better. My gift to you. Absolutely. And I'm so stoked to be here. We're going to be handing you all sorts of tools. But absolutely use this in what's going on around the world. We're all in different environments at the moment, different parts of the world at the moment. It's not going to shift dramatically if we're talking astrology, and every astrological master that I'm privileged to talk to talks about the fact that things, we've got probably another 18 months, 2 years before things really have shifted back into the direction we want it to go. And so thank you, Jimmy. It is worth $1 billion schmeckles. But we, this is such a powerful tool. I want you to take care of yourself and remember that you are so much more powerful. Very much like everyone that's on here at the moment. Yes, you can do courses and training with me. I've actually got a live stream course coming up at the end of November if you want to join in on that, where I teach you a lot of the basics on how to work with these frequencies and what you can do. Oh, one more tip, and a really important one, because I don't want to run too far over time. But once you've mastered running that frequency through you, that wave of frequency through, you can do it. Put your hand on someone you love. If you've got an autistic child that's gone into pattern or is stressing out, or these are, obviously I'm going to talk extreme cases, sorry about that. But if you've got a stressed out toddler that's throwing a massive tantrum, you've got a Alzheimer's affected parent or someone like that, you can literally put your hand on, and if you drop yourself through in that little mudra self-healing, they will have the same effect. It'll happen for them too.
Pets as well. And my cat. She needs it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Works on. Forgot to mention that. This works on anything that exists in a state of vibration, any living body, animals, plants, fish, water composition, like Professor Emoto, you probably remember that, all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, absolutely use in any way you can to make your life better. Someone's talking about scoff chops, Mont.
Yeah. Because I hang out with the Galactic Historian and I keep bringing in scoff chops to try and win favour with the ladies. So,
you'll be pleased to know I'm a good friend of Scoffy's.
She's very happy that I'm moving. But yeah.
Let's hand it back to David and move on to the next, because they've got so much powerful information coming to you.
I've known Melissa since 2008, and yeah, it's an interesting thing being a friend of hers by just watching all the stuff she does. It's like, what? I have moments of like, I remember you saying, oh, you know, when you astral travel, it's like, no, I thought everyone did that. No, Melissa, not everyone can astral travel. So I help her out. And starting, I think this weekend or the next weekend, we're bringing back our show, Inspired Perspective. I wonder where we got that idea, Shay.
Yeah. And the beautiful Shay will be joining us occasionally too.
Yes. And so basically, Shay and Melissa will be sharing information and making everyone happy. And I just try and make them laugh and just sort of interrupt a lot. So, yeah, there's balance to the force.
And right here on UCMTV as well, we're doing Inspired Perspective. So we're easy to find.
Oh, don't give it away just yet.
Sorry.
Okay, guys. The reason why I just said don't give it away just yet, because when I said that we have solutions for you in all those ads, we weren't actually kidding. Like I have my own list of solutions for you guys, but I'm going to now hand that over to Patty. Patty, are we here, Patty? Patty's a storyteller, and she has a story to tell. Patty, I have a little bit of a surprise for you.
Okay,
we
let's
have
hear it.
somebody. We have somebody who you've done a lot of a podcast with in the audience. I don't know if that person is willing to tell their story, but if that person wants to tell their story under anonymity, they should actually change the name.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Again, so Patty, I'm going to hand this to you.
Yes, and
our friend from Toronto is in the audience if you want to interact with her.
All right. I would love to. I'm going to just do a little intro, tell a little bit about, do a little storytelling here. And then I would love to do a little something with Lisa for our audience. Oops. Was I supposed to say her name? Oops.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. So what an honor to be here. I'm thrilled, and I love what Ches and what folks have been saying about all of what we have to offer, and I just see a lot of overlap in a lot of what we are doing. So again, I'm a teacher, author, I'm a podcast host, and an entrepreneur. So as a high school English teacher, I teach teenagers about the power of words and language. And I also have the opportunity to help them write their own stories, which is really quite a thrill. Now, I'm going to just share a little bit about my story, given I'm a storyteller. Let me share a little bit about my story, which is kind of a meandering story, but what I've discovered is that most of us have meandering stories. So I went to college and became a teacher. In my 20s, I became a revolutionary. That's right, a Marxist leftist revolutionary. Why? I wanted to change the world. I believed at that time that the only way to do that, to change the world, was through political revolution. Ultimately, what I learned from that experience is the limitation of political solutions. I didn't regret the experience. I learned so much. When I moved to New York City, I earned a master's degree in creative writing, and I looked forward to being a published author. Then 9/11 happened. I was standing in a New York City classroom that morning. That was a traumatic, life-altering experience. It sent me packing for Florida, and it took me years to be able to write about that experience. In Florida, I stepped away from teaching and opened a coffee house cafe that I ran for 10 years. Now, what a rich experience that was. I opened in 2007, right as the economy was tanking, and what a time it was to learn how how really challenging it is to run an independent small business. Still, I ran it for 10 years, and I immersed myself in nutrition, cooking, food alchemy. Speaking of Dr. Emoto, I did a lot of studying with his work. And I also learned about the dark side of food ideologies, how often people get caught up in food ideologies that end up not being so healthy for us. In addition to all of that, I learned how vitally important it is for communities to have gathering places. It's so vitally important to have community gathering places, how precious they are now, right? When my cafe closed, I discovered how utterly depleted I was financially, emotionally, and spiritually. So it was this wonderful, joyful, magical experience, but I had martyred myself to this idea that I had that this was my purpose. Often that is what we do. And many people in the audience might have had that experience. They've given everything they have to something that they believe is their purpose, and they've end up being a sort of martyr. So that was a hard thing for me to learn. So it was at this moment that I began my journey inward to heal and become whole again, to take time to contemplate all the things I had learned and had become because of all of these experiences. I took out those stories I had been carrying around in a cardboard box for years and began writing my memoir. Now, here is when I learned something extraordinary. I learned the incredible power of story in the healing process. I learned how the stories we tell about our lives often limit us, not empower us at all. One example of this, often like stories that we tell about ourselves, our fears. Often we tell stories that kind of solidify fears in us. And you think about, the global narrative, right? What it is it's a worldwide story, and how powerful that is, and how so much of that story has to do with fear. So a personal discovery in 2018, I discovered that I could rewrite the story of my fear of flying. Yes, I had developed a fear of flying when right after 9/11. It was a very compelling story, though. And I told it to everyone. Oh, I don't fly. You see, I was in New York City during 9/11, and oh, I just don't fly anymore. So it's a compelling, and it's true, it's believable. But what I discovered was it was a story that was holding me back because so many of the people I loved lived far away. And so I decided to rewrite that story in 2018 so that I could fly again. And that's exactly what I did. I also discovered that for most of us, there's this gap between the life that we live and the story we tell about our lives. So sometimes this gap is caused by our fear of judgment, our shame, our guilt. Sometimes the gap separates the life that we live in the seen world with that aspect of our life that's connected to the unseen world, the mystical, the magical, the experiences we have that are about synchronicities. So it occurred to me that a powerful way to develop self-acceptance, love, and healing was to close that gap. So I decided to combine my skills as a teacher and a storyteller and my experiences to help others tell and write their stories. I did publish my first book in 2020, Wildflowers in Present Tenses, a collection of my stories. And just this week, my cookbook from my cafe days went to print, full of signature recipes and those magical cafe stories that I had collected along the way. So my memoir, my collection of short stories is really those stories are about love and heartbreak, and also my personal search for meaning, which I think so many people can relate to now. We're all searching for deeper meaning in our lives as our lives have become unmoored. I started a podcast, Storybridge with Patty Lucia, as a way to support others in telling their stories. Most of all, I learned that we don't need political revolutions to change and to heal the world. That real change begins with our internal journey, just as the other panelists have talked about, the embracing and the telling of our own stories. For me, it began with a revolution of one. It started with me. So this is what I do. I'd love to help all of you embrace your stories and to tell your stories on my podcast or in the services that I offer through my website. So that's it. That was my little story. I would love to have Lisa join us if she wants, and we can talk a little bit about the work that she and I did together.
Robert, you want to bring forward Lisa? I believe she's in the chat. I'm going to try to find her. If she is there, I'm going to try to unmute.
I have a quick question, if I may.
Yeah, Monty.
Working with the Galactic Historian and just like, the false reality that the media puts out. There's a thing called the global narrative. Would you say learning storytelling helps deciphering the global narrative, and you can observe it and not engage in it? Because most people get engaged as like, oh, the Chinese are doing something. It's like, then you find out, well, they've been doing that for a while. You know what I mean? Where through storytelling, you can see what story what they're trying to say, where to go. And then I guess from an internal point of view, you choose like, no, I don't want that. You don't give energy to that narrative. Because if you notice how we've been on the planet for the last 2 years, see the narrative they're pushing. And it doesn't make sense when everyone, from your own personal experience, the only reason I know something's going on is when I leave the house and people wearing masks. Apart from that, things are basically the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the folks who, the powers that be, for instance, they know, they are fully aware of the power of story. And so, and they use it. It is extraordinarily powerful. And so, but if we look at it like it's a story, and like we listen to, or we look at all kinds of stories, you're talking about soap operas earlier, you can look at it and approach it as a story and say, oh, right, well, how do I feel about this story? Is it true or not? How does it feel to me? And approach it literally as a story. I approach it mostly as a fiction. That's interesting. That's fiction. Right. But I also think that this is an opportunity for us to recognize, wow, how powerful that story is. And if story wasn't so powerful, they wouldn't be putting so much energy into a global narrative. That's how powerful story is. You see, and so it is being used to kind of, get us all on board with telling a story. I've had the experience of writing a story, and then years later, I realized that story manifested my future. Like, I literally looked at the story and said, oh my God, the characters in that story, they're in my life right now. Right. Yeah. And so I think, yeah, man. And so that's kind of freaky, but I honestly think that's the power of story. It's extremely powerful in terms of manifesting. And so you get everybody on board and engaging in this collective story, then we are then manifesting our collective story. So I think it is important for people to then take this time to focus on, well, what's my story? What's my story? It doesn't have to be that story. My story is the story I'm living and the story I'm experiencing. And how do I want to tell it? And how do I want to write it? And the reason why I mention writing is because people have no idea how powerful it is to put your stories in writing. That's why they called it spelling. They knew how powerful the written word was. People know this who do vision boards and who do, like practice manifestation. They know how powerful it is to write down what you wish to manifest. So
To write
why
down
not
that
use the
spell.
power of story? What's that, sweetie? What?
To write that spell. I love this. I love that people can reframe their own story. They can absolutely rewrite your story at any time, and that
you can edit it.
Immense.
You have the power. You are the editor of your own story. That's why I rewrote the power. See, that fear that I faced, I rewrote it. I rewrote that story. I did not, that story no longer served me. So I rewrote it. We have the power to rewrite our stories, to look at, well, what stories am I telling that are creating fear in me? And how can I rewrite that story? Sometimes we need a little help doing it. But there are plenty of people on this panel.
Interesting time as well. It's an interesting time as well because the global narrative, when Andrew and I would talk on the comedy show of what's going on, and they had to, at the end of Trump being and all that being out of the White House, they had to skip season 3. He was using like television because season 3, like, oh crap, we've written ourselves in a corner. So season 3 was only over a weekend, and then they went to season 4. The writers for this narrative suck, and people are waking up to it. And the thing about being in house arrest in lockdowns, you didn't have a 40-hour week. A 40 hours a week job to distract you. And so people went back into gardening. They watched that documentary that crazy uncle, suggested. And people started to waking up and realizing, hang on. And so that's why they're kind of freaking out as well, because the narrative, the spell of their narrative is weakened because they're still using the same playbook from 1635. And we've evolved. And so now, by rewriting your own story, which is like, well, you don't engage in the global narrative. You don't give it energy, you just observe it, and you can write your own story and become awesome.
Absolutely.
Interesting, Patty, is everyone that's on here at the moment, or everyone here in our roundtable, and for everyone that's there in the lounge with us, I call it a Zoom lounge, we're all in the lounge. We're all authors. We've all actually written our own books. Yourself, Chairs, myself, Shay has as well. We're all actually, and that's actually, for everyone out there, that's unusual these days. Most authors use ghostwriters, but everyone on here has actually used their own voice and written their own book.
That's right.
So that's really fascinating too.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. We all have that in common.
And
I actually want to step in here and ask a very pertinent question. You made a very important point about writing your own story. I'm going to tell you this from a hypnotherapist perspective, because I train and I educate hypnotherapists. The power of story is such that the mind is your ultimate genie. Okay? The mind is your ultimate genie. The mind will give you whatever it is that you want. That's right. It will certainly rewire itself to give you everything or anything that you want. Here's the problem. It's not the stories that you know that are the problem. It's the stories that you don't know. That's the problem. The ones that are running in the back of your head. The ones that are telling you, I actually want to get involved with a man who's just like my dad. These little stories that are in the back of your head that are running. These are the ones that you have to become in tune with. Because here's the thing that happens to a lot of people. And in this global narrative in the last 2 years, a story is being written. So you can see that the global narrative is on this side. I want to say something to you. The global narrative is one of fear. Fear is a very powerful motivator. Okay? So I want to say something because this is about unity more than anything else. If you, in the last 2 years, have found yourself absolutely hating the person who is living next to you, that was your neighbor before, because why? They may disagree with your stance on whatever medical, whatever. It doesn't matter whether you're for or against. Take a look at yourself and see the story that you're writing inside your head. This person is causing my life to become less hospitable. I have to stay at home because of this person. No, you have to stay at home because there's an order involved. Okay? On the other side of the fence, if you are on the other side of the fence and you're looking at this person, oh, this person is one of those sheep that go along with whatever the government says. Come on, guys. Does it really matter at the end of the day? That story that you're writing, which says it's me against this person or versus culture, what I call versus culture is a bunch of crap.
Well,
It
it's
is a
not even
bunch
your
of crap.
it's not even your story, David. It's a story that's been imposed on you. And that's a story that we buy into. You see, that's kind of what the lure of it. What I discovered when I was writing my memoir is that, and there are those stories that are running in the back of our heads. And as I was writing my memoir, I was writing, I wrote about some of the harder, like for instance, relationships. As I was writing it, I saw the patterns and I was able to recognize it and say, wow, here. If you are reflective and you are endeavoring to write an honest story, then you will have to face those things and you will see the stories that are written, that are running in the back of your head, because they will come out on the paper. And then you have to look at it and you have to say, wow, this is my story. And then what you could do is include in the story, wow, that was the story running in the back of my head. And this is what happened.
Yeah, Patty, the point is that I could start a story for you. What is happening to the whole world is a fill in the blank story. This is the format. I start the story, you fill in the blanks. Okay? And people fill in the blanks. Okay, so if I say something along the lines of, and I'm going to depersonalize this so that we get out of the trauma cycle of this 2 years. I'm just going to depersonalize it. If I say to you, you will never get anywhere because you are fill in the blanks. Right? Your mind will fill in the blanks as long as you accept the first part of the sentence. If you accept the first part of the sentence, you will never get anywhere. Then you don't fill in the blank. The problem is that a lot of people don't generally, when they're sitting at home in front of the television, at the end of the day, their analytical mind is put to rest. I want y'all to hear me. Y'all are getting daily uploads of poison to your system while you're filling in the blanks. Be careful of this stuff. What is happening is that it's changing your behavior bit by bit. If you guys are listening to this, whether you're listening to it now or whether you're listening to it in the future, the fill in the blank scenario has been something that has been going on for years. It started back in 1947 with the LF, the discovery of how powerful hypnosis was, behavior modification, and so on. Don't fill in the blanks for people. Don't accept the statements. Keep it simple is my rule. If I'm dealing with someone else, see that person, first of all, as a soul that is trying to communicate with you. Okay? Start there. That's my solution. Okay? Start right there. Any other story that is outwards from that story may not be in your best interest or that person's best interest. Absolutely. It's going to lead you guys to fight. It's going to lead you to feel that you're in some particular little box. You're not in a box. All the possibilities are open to you guys. Now, what Patty's saying about writing your own story is absolutely important because you guys don't journal. A lot of you guys don't.
Journaling is wonderful. I encourage my students to do it. Listen, we can keep track of our physical growth and our physical development. We can measure that. We can weigh that. But how do we keep track of our emotional development? And journaling really helps us do that. If you journal for a year and then you look back a year and you look at the things that you were writing back a year ago, you will see the growth. And that is in and of itself encouraging and growthful. So I just, I think we cannot underestimate the power of language. We understand our world this way. When people want to, take over the world, they often begin with language. There has not been a genocide on earth that did not begin with the poisoning of language, calling people, in Germany, people were called vermin and cockroaches until people then began to repeat that and then began to feel that and then began to act upon it. It started with language. So I think we need to look at the languaging of the global narrative. How are they using language to manipulate our thoughts, to manipulate our actions? And when we recognize that, we can begin to take back our own story, to write our own stories, to take back our power by, writing our own stories. And it does not have to be determined by that, David, what you're talking about, the fill in the blank global narrative that is imposed on us.
So I'm gonna go ahead. Sure,
Yeah,
Chess, go ahead.
I just wanted to say just two quick things. One of the there's an exercise I do with my clients where I insist that they write it out, and none of this typing on the keyboard, because there's a certain magic. And Patty, I know that you know this. I'm sure you do. There's a certain magic, that it comes out and it goes down our arm and it goes through the pen or the pencil. And when we see our thoughts and we recognize our handwriting, there's something there that connects us with that. Way more than just doing this on doing a Times Roman font or something. But the other thing I wanted to just mention quickly that came up in my mind, David, when you were talking about what you were talking about is people organizing themselves based on their own limitations or their own limited beliefs. Where a lot of that comes from is because, well, I can only speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure most everybody listening and those of us on the panel can relate to this, but I only speak for myself. When I was growing up, I was told, and I talk about it in my first book, I was told, don't do that, don't do that, don't. I was told all the things not to do. So when I got to be about 12 or 13, the first time I heard this phrase, the process of illumination, I thought, boom, light bulb just came on. So in other words, you told me all the things not to do, but you didn't tell me what to do, the things I could do. So I guess the process of illumination was I can do all the other things that other than the things you told me not to do. And that didn't work out too well for a few good years, I can tell you that. But is this not true? We were all told what not to do. But how many of us had that balance where we were told other things that we could do? I leave that with you.
You want to know something? This is actually a very good point. I actually want to bring, if Lisa is unmuted and she's there. Lisa, you want to come in and tell us a story? Because your story pertains to this.
Okay, no problem. Can everybody hear me?
Sure.
Great. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. I'm Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Hi, Patty. Patty's my favorite girl. So Patty and I had a lovely discussion in the summer about my story, and we're going to take a left turn here with this because I'm actually just a normal human being like everyone else. I work, and right now this pandemic has really caused me a whole heap of stress, literally. I think I might need Chess or Melissa to help me out after this conversation. So technically, I work in the airline industry in Toronto, specifically air cargo. Recently, I would say back in April, after I was on sick leave, my company came up with this policy for vaccinations, etc. Sorry, I'm now seeing my video. Sorry, David, can you see me?
No, I can't. We're good.
Okay, here I am. Hi. Right. So my company started this, all the talks around the vaccination policy and what we can expect. They came up with a couple of letters via email to staff who are unvaccinated, saying basically that we're going to have to undergo testing multiple times a week or take the vaccine. I was one of the first people to start shouting about this because it's no secret I'm not vaccinated. I'm not ready to get it right now. And, there's specific reasons for that. I did have a minor health issue that I was monitoring this year. So that was the main reason why I was not ready. I did come back from sick leave, I believe it was mid-May. And the first day that I sat down in my chair, my boss was on my case asking me, whether or not I was going to get vaccinated. And I was like, well, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. No, I'm not getting vaccinated. Okay. I'm just going to condense this story because it's really long and detailed. So basically, after that first questioning that I got questioned every week for, I would say, the next 5 weeks. There was either some kind of email that came out inviting me to join everyone who's going to the other office to, get their shots. And HR, as well as my immediate boss, found creative ways of trying to persuade me to get on this bus with everyone else. And I was very clear that, I have this health issue that I'm investigating right now. I am not ready, but as soon as I am, I'll let you know. So I got questioned in June 3 times, asking the same thing over and over again. And, trying not to be rude or anything, I kept thinking to myself, why are you asking me the same thing over and over again? I've already told you no. The third line of questioning was from my boss and the director of the department, basically saying to me that, oh, no one is forcing you to do anything. We're not trying to put you under any stress. We're just trying to understand if you're getting vaccinated or not. So again, I had to repeat myself, health issue. I have this appointment coming up in August. I'm not doing anything until I know what's going on inside of my body. And they said, okay, no problem. We're just asking to see who's interested in doing it and who's not. And I said, okay. So basically, I'm not saying no and I'm not saying yes. I'm just asking for an opportunity to figure out what's happening inside of me before I go ahead and put any kind of, strange chemicals in my body. So they were like, okay, we understand. Everybody sat down, twiddled their thumbs and looked at me like, okay. They did the same thing to 2 other workmates in my department who were not vaccinated as well. Moving forward to the week of, I believe it was July 12th, we got this kind of very tense email coming from our CFO, which is the person who's acting on behalf of the CEO and running the company. And her email was very, very tense. And it basically told us if we are not vaccinated, we have to undergo testing twice a week. Again, I was the first person to stand up and cry foul at this because, I said to my boss, I said, hey, we're not in the health industry. I'm just an administrator who sits in a corner in the office. I don't see people coming in the office. I am not customer facing. I'm not a medical personnel. Why do I have to be tested twice a week? And how am I going to be tested? What is going to be shoved up my nose? And that's exactly how I asked. I was basically told I have to go to HR, which I did. I went to HR, asked the same questions. HR just shook their heads and they were like, no, we have to keep everybody safe. This is our policy. I said, okay, well, I'm just asking, is it possible that I could either wear more PPE? Can I sit somewhere else in the office where no one will feel that I'm some kind of a threat to them? Is it possible that, I could work from home? Like, anything. Like I'm willing to change anything that I have to change in order to continue working here, but just not cause any issues to anyone. They did mention that there are people in the office who are immunocompromised. And I said quite plainly, I said, well, if there are people here who are immunocompromised, you should not be forcing them to come into an office and work. They are the ones who should be working from home. Okay. Everyone knows that I travel by public transit. Yes, I understand that I could be some kind of a threat, right? But I didn't like being singled out and I didn't like the force. I specifically asked for them to describe the test that I'm going to be taking because I knew in myself that I have a lot of anxiety around, like medical stuff, the dentist, gynecologist, you name it, right? And the last thing I wanted was for something to be shoved up in my nose twice a week because that's all I'm going to be thinking of. I'm going to be sleeping and imagining somebody just, drilling into my nose. And that brought a lot of anxiety to me. Every time I asked about, this test, no one would give me any specific information or instructions as to what's going to be done to me. So based on that, July 15th came around, which was the beginning of the testing day, right? And I refused to be tested. They came upstairs. They asked me if I can come down and get tested, and I said no. And I just stared them in the face, and they said, "Oh, are you refusing?" I said, "I absolutely am." So HR went downstairs, came back up with a company lawyer, and they escorted me off the premises. They told me that I'll have to go home without pay until when they can figure out this situation. I politely said, fine, no problem. I packed my stuff and I left. I was home from work for an entire month. So that was July 15th. There was a lot of emails back and forth between myself and HR and the company lawyer, who I felt was harassing me at the time, and basically telling me, you know, if I don't come back to work by the week of August the 3rd, because it was a holiday, then that will be deemed a resignation. So obviously I felt as if I was forced to come back to work. And I came back to work the second week of August. I wasn't able to do it the first week. During the time that I was home, I filed a complaint to the Federal Labor Board here in Toronto. I filed a complaint to the Human Rights Commission, the Mayor's office, which is John Tory, the Premier's office, which is Doug Ford. I didn't send one to Trudeau's office because I didn't think anyone would take me on. I didn't get any response from Doug Ford's office, and I'm not surprised. I got a response from John Tory's office telling me to call a particular number to another organization. I got a lot of information from different places that I spoke to. And I was able to work with the Federal Labor Board and work my way up to possibly having a mediation session between myself and the company, which is still outstanding. I'm waiting on a date to be set. So I came back to work the week of August 15th or 16th. I came back to an environment which was very different. So the friends that I once had in my department weren't talking to me anymore. Everyone was like, oh, hi, how are you? And then like, that's it, no more conversation. We weren't gathering anymore in the lunchroom and having lunch. A lot of people were not saying much to me. They were like, oh, hi, you're back. Nice. Okay, bye. So everything was different. The atmosphere was just very tense. I felt like I had lost, you know, a lot of people that I had considered friends because they just didn't want to come around me because they knew that I wasn't vaccinated. I felt alienated. My own boss said very little to me, and my supervisor said less to me. It took her a week to warm up to me, to come to me and say, okay, this is what's been going on since you were gone. We did X, Y, Z, whatever. That week we had our company's summer barbecue. And the morning of the barbecue, HR called me and said they would like to have a quick chat with me. And I said to myself, okay, what do they want now? So he came up to me and he basically said, oh, I just wanted to let you know that, you know, the barbecue is today and everyone will be gathering, but we would like to ask you to remain at your desk and not come downstairs and gather with everyone else. We cannot have people who are vaccinated mixing with people who are unvaccinated. So we're going to ask you to stay at your desk until when everyone has, you know, taken the food and they go back to their desk and they work. We will call you and tell you when you can come down and eat. So I bit my tongue because my instinct was to just explode, right? And I'm sorry that I did not. But I did the right thing and I remained quiet and I said, okay. And I just gave them a little smile. And one of my other colleagues from downstairs said, that's absolutely ridiculous. I told my boss as well, and my boss said, come on, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not joking. You can call HR yourself and ask that question. I think he did call downstairs and they said, yes, we don't want her to come downstairs. So he came to me and he says, this is, you know, sorry, bullshit. I don't like the way that this is going right now. And this is just letting you know, this is not me. This is not my belief. He says, I'm going to bring you a plate of food. Okay. You're going to come downstairs, wait by the warehouse door. I'll hand you food. And he did. And I came back upstairs and I ate. 2 hours later, I got a call from HR telling me, okay, you can come down now. So this is 2 o'clock in the evening. Barbecue started at 12:15. Like, come on. So that day passed and I got over that. And leading up to the first week of September, the Federal Labor Board contacted my company regarding my complaint. So now they realize that, oh, she's complained for us to the government. Not cool. So we had a really a not so good meeting about it. They accused me of filing a complaint which didn't exist. The complaint was for unjust dismissal or constructive dismissal, and their claim is that they never dismissed me from my job. I argued that they did change the, let's say, the policy in terms of employment, and they sent me home without pay. So what was I supposed to do? I had to complain to someone. So they were not very pleased about it. And then they changed their testing policy on me and the other people who are not vaccinated. So what used to happen was every Monday and Thursday, we would come to work, we would wait around, we'll go back to our desk, we'll come to work, go to our desk, continue to work, and then we go downstairs at 9:30 to be tested. So what they were now saying is that when we come to work on a Monday and a Thursday, we will wait in the lobby. We will not come upstairs to our desk. And they said, right now, if you are taking the PCR test, which is what I was taking, because that's the one that swabs the lower nostril and not the long swab, which is fine by me. They said, if you insist on continuing to take that PCR test, then we're gonna send you home until your results come back. So your results come back like around 10 o'clock the nighttime. And then once they're negative, you can come to work the next day. But that day that you're going to be home, you're not going to be paid. So essentially, they have reduced my salary by 2 days, right? I did not agree with that. I went back to HR and I basically quarreled about it. And they said, well, we can't do anything unless you get vaccinated. And I said, oh, I see. I see exactly where this is going. Absolutely not. Okay, nobody's forcing me to do something that I don't want to do or I'm not ready to do. So the morning of September 20th, I came to work. I was already stressed out. I had some public transit issues and like my mind was just fried. I came to work. I sat in the lobby. I was told that the nurse is not going to come until 11. I said, okay, that's not cool because I haven't had enough breakfast for the day and I already feel like I'm going to faint. What's going to happen here? So I ended up calling an Uber to come for me, to take me somewhere where I can just go and purchase the tests and you know, either do it myself or have it done elsewhere so that I can present my results and come to work the next day. But that didn't work out. It so happened that my other workmate who was not vaccinated, she got tossed out of the office that morning because she didn't realize she wasn't supposed to go to her desk. So they threw her out. She got angry. She called me, where are you? I told her where I was. She says, I'm coming for you. She picked me up, brought me back to work that morning. I was already upset and I was telling her what happened. She took me back to work because she says, you should not have to pay for any test to be able to complete your job. That's absolute crap. I'll pick you up, bring you back, let the nurse test you, you go home, we'll just figure this out. I agreed. I went to work. I sat with the nurse and I said, I'm gonna try my best to see if I can take the rapid test, which is the longer swab, because I would get my results back in 15 minutes and then I can just go back to work. And in my mind, I was thinking, this is payday week. I need to pay my rent. You know, I need to make X amount of money so I can pay my rent on Thursday. That was all that was in my mind and upsetting me. The moment I saw the swab, I don't know what happened to me, but I came down with an anxiety attack. right on the spot. I started sobbing. I couldn't breathe. I had instant tightness in my chest. I had like body aches. My head was hurting. Like everything just went wrong. The nurse was unable to swab me. Obviously, she says, I can't swab you in this condition. So let's just take a breath. And we breathed together for 10 minutes. I composed myself and I said, I just can't do it. Like, and I was shaking as well. Like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't focus. I said, I'll just take the PCR test, get it over with, and I'll go home. And I did that. But like when she came at my nose, like I was shaking like a leaf. I was still petrified and I couldn't breathe. So she did it as gently as possible. I got back in my workmate's car and I had another anxiety attack. She was like, oh my God, what's wrong? I told her I couldn't breathe. She gave me her asthma inhaler. I took it. That kind of helped open up my airways. We ended up in a doctor's office, a random doctor in the area that we just Googled. He tried to calm me down. It took a while. And then they called the ambulance to take me to the hospital because I was just complaining that I can't breathe. Like my chest was tight. And I spent an entire day at the hospital. And,
Lisa.
you know, yeah.
Oh, God, that's just horrible stuff.
It is,
yeah. Yeah, and you know, this is exactly that. This is exactly, you're making it a really great point of how bad this narrative has become and how much it's affecting this story, this false story that's created this division. The division between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. I think it was in the United States I first heard that term about how the unvaccinated are killing the vaccinated. That is such a false information.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Patty said.
Yes.
As Patty said, it's a narrative. It's versus culture. If you are against me and I am against you, then what has happened? What happens is that we can't agree, right? And because we can't agree, we start to fight. And once we start to fight, that's what's happening.
I would like to just share that when Lisa was telling me this story, when we were sharing she was sharing this story months ago, that when she began to, and I asked her some questions, and she began to talk about the possibility of moving somewhere and creating a new life. And as soon as she began to talk about the possibility of going somewhere and creating a new life that would be more aligned with what she loves and what she likes, joy came into her voice. She became a completely different person. And so where we had left it was, this is a really very difficult situation, but maybe there are some indications here that another story you could begin writing another story that would bring you more joy, and with that joy manifest a whole different job, a whole different setting, a whole different place to be. And it is unfortunate that Lisa's still there dealing with that. And Lisa, I hope that you are putting some energy into the possibility of that other story, because it was really beautiful when you were telling the story of what you would really like to do and where you'd really like to be. So I hope you're still writing that story too.
Okay, so I want to just do something, guys. We have to take a little bit of a bio break for our panelists. When we come back, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to call Shelley to first of all talk about how family relationships are being managed and how to manage family relationships in this present reality. Then I am going to call on Shay Ali, and then I will tell you what David, meaning myself, Don't talk about yourself in the third person, you know, Derek Jackson, right? I'm going to tell you what myself and a couple of other programmers and I are doing to alleviate censorship in this modern age. You're going to want to stay here for that, because honestly speaking, this is going to concern all of you who are too afraid to speak. And I don't mean just about stuff, right, who are being censored for really stupid things, like the erotic blueprint community just got censored by Yahoo for the use of the word pleasure. I could not make that up. That is a real thing. Okay.
You can't have pleasure. What's wrong with you? Calm down.
No, yeah. Here's the funny thing about it, you know, guys. The funny thing about it is that the erotic blueprint community is the only community on earth. They're the least threatening community on earth. You want to know why? They're the embodiment of make love, not war. Really. Yeah. Like, seriously. Right? So if you're going to censor these guys, yeah, you're going to have a problem, right? Because they're actually teaching people how to get more pleasure out of life. And it doesn't have to always be sexual pleasure. It's sensual pleasure, which is not exactly sexual pleasure as well, right? And these guys are the least threatening thing on the internet. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to Jaya and the Erotic Blueprint community. Guys, we are going to take a little 5-minute bio break. I want you guys back in here. Once again, if you are not in this room when we're giving out these prizes, and there are actually 2 bonus prizes we're giving, then you won't receive it and it won't be posted on Facebook. So please get into the room.
Is one a meat tray, or am I just thinking very Australian?
No, I think you're hungry. I think you're hungry. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, Robert, take us away for about 5 minutes and we'll be back, guys. Take care.
Welcome to the exploration of your erotic persona. Pause this recording and grab a journal and some water if you don't have that nearby. Commit to taking a dive into this exploration by limiting all other disturbances. Remove all other distractions by putting your phone on airplane mode. Make sure no one is going to bother you, and go ahead and close your eyes.
As a parent adulting, taking personal responsibility to make a commitment to your child. In making that commitment to your child, you are making a decision to be the most self-regulated person in the room. That means that you come to your child with a schedule and with a plan.
Hello, I'm the Stress Master. My name is Chess Moulton. If you get value from this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, and please remember to click the bell so you'll know when I post more videos designed to help you get control of your stress once and for all.
Hello, friends. This is Patty Lucia, host of Storybridge, and this is the first in a series of special podcasts that I'm going to do in which I read a story from my book, Wildflowers and Present Tenses. It's a
Okay, well,
there we go.
welcome back, everyone. That was a very interesting story. This is a story of clearly of division and how people cope with fear and how they create fear in others. Also frightened. This first, I want to bring on Shelley Palmer. Now, Shelley, you have a special interest in what I was talking about before. There are a bunch of coaches. They're called the Erotic Blueprint Community. They are a conglomerate of people who are trying to make people's lives better. The reason why they're called the Erotic Blueprint Community is because they figure that the basic human elements of life, the procreative element, if it could actually be made into something that is more intimate, right? This is not about like the 30,000 positions that could possibly be had from the Kama Sutra. It's not anything as base as that. We're talking about people becoming intimate with one another. Shelley is a family coach. She deals with children, and she deals with the effects of how certain kind of stimuli affect children. And what she does specifically is try to find solutions so that families actually stick together. The truth of the matter is, you just saw a graphic earlier on that families are breaking apart. Newlyweds are getting divorced, okay? Because the stress is there. So I'm not going to take up too much time. I am going to ask Shelley, tell me, what is it that you've seen, and if you have any solutions for these families?
Well, a couple of things I will share is that in my work with children, adults, and people in relationships, is most people really just want to be heard and they want to be valued. And a lot of times when we look at someone, we look at them through like what we've been talking about, through our own perspective, our own story. And I ask everyone to get really curious, but also come from a place of compassion. So I want everyone just to close their eyes for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to remember back when you were a child. And where did you feel safe? And just think about that for a moment. It could have been a person who held you in their arms. It could have been your room. It could have been school because your home did not feel safe. And just be in that for a moment. And take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, I want you to think about a time that you didn't feel safe and you were a child. And nobody wanted to hear what you had to say. And maybe a choice was taken away from you. And take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, come back with me. Now, while we're all here as adults and our voices are being heard, I want you to think about the children in our world who are not being heard. And this is where we need to be afraid. Because they're watching their parents be afraid to go outside. And they're not getting the social skills that they need. It's not that we aren't in school or that we're not going to preschool, but we weren't even going to see our cousins. We weren't allowed to play with the kids next door. And so this is what we need to look at and be really conscious of. And I work with teachers, teaching them how to be around children and how to create a safe environment for these children. And the skills that we were not taught is we were not taught how to stay married and be in a relationship. And we were not taught how to be parents. And these are really important skills to have. And so let's start listening and let's start creating ways to make everybody win. And that includes these children. And I'd like to open up to my panel right now to see if they would like to ask me any questions. I can tell you, right before I let you do that, the children coming into my school right now, I have to let them in one at a time at the age of 1, because it's not that they're bad kids, but they're coming in not being around anybody but their mom and dad. So like I said, they didn't go see their cousins. So when they come in, they've been entertained with technology and TV, and they don't know how to share. They don't know how to be around other kids. So we now only let them in one at a time, because I had 10 2-year-olds and I had 4 adults, and we just wanted to get through the day because we were dealing with such children that hadn't been taught how to be social. And their way of communicating is, when I don't get my way, I'm going to drop to the ground and cry and scream, because that's how I got my way with my parents. Well, when you're trying to work with 8 other children and you got a child drop down on the screaming and you're trying to pick them up off the floor, the other 4 or 5 start doing things too. So we made a mistake of bringing in 5 of those children at one time. So while one was on the ground screaming, the other one was over hitting someone over the head because they wanted the toy that the other one had, and the other one's climbing on the table, and the other one's taking their food all around the room. So they don't have the structure, they don't have the ritual, they don't have the communication skills. So those are the things that we really want to look at. And whether you are a parent staying at home with your child, whether you are teachers right now, the skills that I have been teaching my teachers is so important, because it's teaching them how to have ritual, how to have schedule, how to have self-responsibility as a parent. There's nothing in the world, if you ask anyone, they're going to say they love their child. But it's teaching them to have the right skills so that our children grow up happy, because the most vital time in their life is between them being born and age 5. And they're creating those patterns. What David was talking about, that behind your head of finding that person that's like your father, that's what these children are creating right now. So when they're in chaos and they're in fear, they're going to become adults and they're going to be in chaos and they're going to be in fear, and it's going to be subconscious. So education around sexuality, education around being a parent, education around the things that we live our daily lives around are vital and important. and our voices should not be being shut down. And that is what is so important about what David is doing. And that is why I am here, because he's making it where we can be heard and that we can be seen, and then we can get the right information out there to help each other. So what I'm contributing back is I'm going to have two groups going. One is Women Helping Women, and the other one, and it's called I Am What I Am. Thank you, David. And the other one is just for parents, to help you know how to let your children win, help you to know how fun things to do with your kids, and help you to build connection that doesn't involve your phone and your TV.
Well, I could probably pipe in there, Shelley, if you like.
What would you like?
Yeah, well, just another element to my life. I'm a sole parent. I have no family left. It's just myself, and I have 5 kids. And I'm currently living in Melbourne in Australia, to everyone that's been asking where I'm from, which means that I've been living in the longest lockdown in the world. So I'm probably a good person to talk to about how the heck to manage an awful lot of kids and what's going on. Interesting times is, for the first time in months, my 2 youngest children, who are identical twins, that's a whole other story. So just talking identical twins is fascinating. But they actually finally went back to school and saw their friends 2 days ago for the first time in months. Now, my girls have each other, but and we have a house that's full of, you can probably tell, there's a lot of laughter and music, and the minute lockdown's announced here, everyone runs home to mum's house. So my older children, who are young adults and things like that, everyone runs home, and we're all together, and which for sure has kept us more sane. But in terms of the kids, even my twins that have had each other, and we've all had each other at home, when they've gone back to school, their social skills have dropped. And these are kids that are older. I couldn't agree more. Watching a child that's 1 or 2 years old, that it's grown up in this environment in the last 2 years, is heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to see how much they don't know how to relate to other kids. You know, they haven't had that toddler standoff that they need to have, that essential sort of interaction, learning how to be there. And but interesting enough, my 2 9-year-olds, watching them trying to find their feet again about where is right, where the boundaries are, what's correct, what's polite. It's heartbreaking to watch this. And if you're not scared, or you don't have children and you're not thinking, then what you need to remember is these are our future. These guys are going to be in charge when we're old. So if you think it doesn't relate to you because you don't have kids or whatever, this actually does. I could talk about a lot of the things that we do. My house, we do all sorts of little projects, all sorts of stuff, but I can tell you as a parent that I've hit a point of fatigue that's just not funny too. I do it all on my own, all decisions are mine. It's a little different being a sole parent. You have a whole different economy of stamina. But this environment, I couldn't agree more with you, Coach Shelley. You just read your name. Sorry, Shelley. But what you just did, where you closed my eyes, I went to a really happy place as a child and a really hideous place as a child. And I think I've probably got a clear understanding just from what you did at the very beginning of your segment to what these kids are facing. Yeah, they're structuring on, because of course they're learning, and this is where Patty's really important too. These kids learn from stories like we all do, and we always have. The human race has always learned best from stories. But they're learning from a story that is so inappropriate and convoluted and horribly filtered that I actually have a whole new fear level of what's ahead for these kids and what we can do.
I actually saw. Sorry, if I may. I actually saw. It was a viral video. I think it was a girl. Didn't really. Anyway, a 1-year-old. She was going around and pressing everything like the hand sanitizer, and like she'd go up to a tree and press it and then rub her hands, and then go up to a tap and do the same thing. It was cute, but also extremely sad at the same time because of David, what's the Jesuit saying? Give me a boy over the age of 8 and I'll give you the man. There's so much development in those first 6 to 8 years that your template of who you are. Now you can change the template, don't worry, but you've got 2 years of basically isolation, everyone wearing masks and everything else like that. What is the net effect against for children, and how can we change it back to where they could go play in a park and feel free, as an example?
I actually want to just jump in here and correct something here. Not all of those templates are changed easily. I will explain what I mean like that. By that, some of these templates, Chess and I belong to an organization. Some of these templates reside in the subconscious, and they just stay there waiting for when you get older and you do something, I don't know, inventive, like get into a relationship, and then it comes back. It comes back like it's new and improved, like bleach. Okay, so it's new and improved, like Tide or bleach. So when it comes back at you, you're not understanding where it's coming from. There are a bunch of adults when I was in practice on the clinical side. Okay, there are a bunch of adults that are walking around with time bombs in their head, waiting for it to go off. Okay, and one little trigger will set that off. When you are at home and you're looking at your kids and you're acting all afraid, and grandpa, you can't see him because of this. Grandma, you can't, look, guys, come on, right? You can't see because of this, and you're afraid, and they feel your fear. They will internalize your fear. So this is what a likely scenario is going to be. They internalize your fear, everything goes back to normal, everybody's going, and then about 20 years later, I don't know, the boyfriend might sneeze or something. The boyfriend might sneeze or something. And it's just the little triggers, the things that you don't know. And all of a sudden, they're in a state and they don't know why. That's how it works. The little time bomb is in your head waiting to go off. And a lot of people are walking around with this stuff, and a little bit of introspection could help, but it doesn't. So what Shelley's doing is absolutely very important. And I want to say this as well, because it's not only between the genders, between the little girls and the little boys, there are different things at play. With regard to the little boys, the programming, it used to be that you're supposed to be brave. Well, that's going to go out the window, all right? Within the programming used to be years and years ago, back in the 60s. I don't know if that's still a thing now, but it's not widespread now. It used to be this whole nurturing aspect back in the 60s. Then it's changed a little bit, where we're looking at children as potentialities. But now in this last 2 years, all we're doing is compensating. Like, my children are at home, I just realized I don't like my children. They're feeling that. You hear me, guys? They're feeling it. Because now you have them full time. So they just, oh, I don't really like you. I mean, I love you, but I don't really like you, right? And they're feeling that. And what is going to happen is that they're going to register it. It's going to come back to bite you in the ass during puberty. So I just want to say this to you guys. Shelley, I'm just going to let you answer what Melissa was talking about. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, and it's about solutions, right? You know, we talk about what's going on, and I can tell, like when I walk into my school, I can tell when my teachers aren't using the things that I've taught them. I'll just walk down the hall and I'll hear them getting frustrated and angry. And I can also hear the kids talk to each other the way the adults are talking to them. So I know when they're not using the things that I teach them. And the reason they're not using the things that I'm teaching them is because we all tend to go back and do what we learned when we were growing up, or the way we were taught to. And I have people come in all the time and they're like, well, I'll just spank them. And I'm like, well, I've had 2,000 children walk through my school, and I can guarantee you I've never laid a hand on a single one of them. There are other ways, and it's, are you ready to learn the other ways? and I did 9 modules of teaching people how to be self-responsible and how to make it be about your child. And your child is, and this is just an example, you walk into the house, you have a plan. You don't just walk into the house and let them run around like they're little squirrels. You take them to an area that you've already set up with books and toys and things, and you have a time of coming together, and then you allow them to know what's coming next. You have a ritual about them going to bed. You have a plan with your partner of who's making dinner and who's watching the kids. You don't just go tell them to go play. They don't know how. I have teachers all the time. We go out in the playground, they're like, go play. They don't know how to go play. They go home, they go sit in front of the TV. Their parents have worked all day, they're tired, and they're like, go play. We have to teach our children how to play. We have to have ritual for them. When we talk about telling, don't do this, don't do that, I want you to walk down the hall. If I say run down the hall, they run down the hall because they only see pictures in their head. So we come back and we say, these children are important. Let us learn skills to create a good life for them. We can't right now have control over what's going on outside, but we are the adults. So we can take back control of what's going on in our homes and what's going on in our schools so that we help them through this. But we, make them priority and what is most important here. Because while we're here talking, those children are not being heard. And that is what I want to make the most known here, is that let's hear the child, let's be the adult, let's self-regulate, and let's recreate their life on a day-to-day basis where they're set up to win and they're set up to be happy in whatever situation they're in, whether that's being at home with their parents or that's being back at school. But it's our responsibility to make sure that we are protecting them and that we're getting them through this.
Shelley, can I come in here? I want to take the other side of the coin. So I know a few parents that are, that I had a conversation with one parent who was like, I'm scared that because I know they create these patterns, and I try really hard to be the perfect parent, that they're going to create whatever patterns. So you could have told them off for, I don't know, drawing on your ceiling or something like that, and that's going to have created a pattern. So I was wondering if you could say a few words about, as a parent, my belief is if you try and be your highest and best self and do your best, that child's on some spiritual level chosen you as a parent and will have their own patterns anyway. And we can't have people beat themselves up being like, I'm a terrible parent because my child drew on the wall.
Well, absolutely. I mean, none of us are perfect, but you don't know what you don't know. And that goes in your relationship, and that goes with being a parent. But it's opening your mind up to be educated and learn some of those skills, are always learning, always being curious. How, when I'm in a classroom and something's not going right, I don't go home and go, oh, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to let them be like this. I go, how could I have set them up to win? How could I have created the environment where the things I didn't want to happen didn't happen? So let's give an example of that. They all have to go get their coats on, right? They're all 4. So if I send 10 4-year-olds to go all put their coats on at once, that's like going and getting toilet paper right before COVID, and everybody wants toilet paper, right? So we're fighting for the toilet paper. It's human nature. They're just doing what is human, right? It's human nature for me to want to get my coat or me to want to get my toilet paper. But if I create something fun for them to do at circle time, and we're singing a song and I say, Shay, can you go get your coat and come back to circle time? And then you go get your coat and you come back. And then I'm like, Monty, can you go get your coat and come back for circle time? And I'm entertaining you. Do you see how I took a situation that taking away from their human animal, but creating a different situation where they're all set up to win. So that's what I mean, is like taking responsibility of how can I take something that's not working and make it more fun and creative so that we all win, so that I have a good day, the kids have a good day. I want them to take a nap. The outcome never changes. So some people are like, well, you just let them do whatever they want. I'm like, oh no, they all will be safe. They're all going to do exactly what they need to do. I just figure out a fun way to get them to do it where they are the most successful. When I was filming for this, I didn't have to tell the kids what I wanted them not to do. I just had to put them in the situation where I knew that they would do exactly what I didn't want them to do, which was not go to the bathroom, throw their toys everywhere, hurt each other, hit each other. And I filmed them doing it, knowing exactly what they would do because I knew how their human animal would come out. But then I turn it around and I recreate the room where none of that ever happens because I don't put them in a situation for those things to happen. So that's what I want to teach parents is how do you, it's not that you are making your child act a certain way, but you are providing an environment where they can be successful and win. That's what I want to teach.
So Shirley, I'm following Shay's line because I actually tend to, as a parent, follow Shay's line. I tend to, the reason we can do that is because we're okay in ourselves or we're being our best selves first. And that's sort of the way that I tend to do it, the way Shay was talking about it as well, is that if I make sure I'm in a better place first, or I check myself, and I can honestly say through some of these incredibly brutal curfew lockdowns and everything we've gone through here, there's depression has crept in. And I've had to make sure I get up. I get up, I train, I do what I have to. I weight train and stuff, and I'll get up and I'll train, I'll go for a run. I make sure I'm okay. Like the whole, my cup is full before they even get out of bed. And so it's about being, as Shay said, my highest self, highest and best self that I can be on that day, which is not always awesome. Sometimes that's, pretty low threshold, but
be the best example you can be.
Well, and be the best you can in yourself. You've got to make sure, it's the old saying, if mum is okay, what is it? If mum is not okay, nothing's okay. And it's, you've got to sort of put yourself in that place where you've got to make yourself okay as you can and be the highest self you can be in the moment. Which, that's right.
So having someone that knows how to handle 10, 12 children came in and just kind of gave you a couple of ideas that made your day go a little bit easier. You were like, oh, because I know I was that mom, I had 3 kids. I could kind of wing it. I did take care of myself, and I did the things. But if I had known what I know now, my children's lives would have been like a whole lot smoother because I didn't give them a routine. I was just like, I'm your mom. We're going to go to the car. You're going to get in the car. You're going to do as I tell you to do. But when you have 12 children, you can't get them to do that. So what I've learned is just some better skills to make the mom have a more pleasant day.
Yeah.
It's giving you some ideas like, oh, that would have made my day so much better. It's not, and no one's doing it wrong. This is just bringing in some new things and new skills for you to like have a better life for yourself and have a better life for your child.
Actually, someone in the chat room, Esme, just said parenting ourselves and parenting our children. And actually, that's probably the exact right term, isn't it?
It's not only, like I'm finding a lot of people are coming to me because they want to heal their inner child because we still have that voice that's talking to us like the parent. And so forgiving self, like I teach a lot about forgiveness. I teach a lot about not taking a righteous position. And it's really important when you're dealing with children that you don't, like I've had children like, oh, she's going to remember what I did yesterday. I've also watched teachers, when a child does something wrong, they hold it against them all day long. So I teach a lot about forgiveness. Like when it's done, it's done. You put your shoes on, you throw a great big fit. I've watched children turn on children. They'll be like, make them stop crying. But instead of making them stop crying, I start singing, sometimes you gotta have a cry. Let those tears fall from your eyes. You gotta have a good cry. So I'm teaching the children to have acceptance. But I also, there's a bunch of things that happen right there. I taught acceptance. I taught that it could be fun. And I got the child to quit crying, because the minute I start singing a song, they all stop crying. So it's like little tricks that I've learned, you know, how to take back over a whole entire room of 12 children, because that one child crying, yeah, if they're your only child and they're crying, it's not that big of a deal. You can let them cry. But the thing is I got one child crying and I got to keep all 12 happy. I got to figure out how to get them to quit crying. So that's where someone like me who's worked with a lot of children can come in, and you can be like, oh, that's a fun song, or that's a fun game, or I see how you included them and made dinner. You know, like a parent would come to me and say, okay, this is the time of day, it's just not working. And I can say, and I can go, well, let me help you with that.
Can I jump in here for a moment?
Sure.
You've said a couple of things that have ticked something off in my, something is fired off. When we grow up, and then when we get out on our own, again, I'll speak for myself, but I think everybody can identify with this. When I was growing up, I was parented by my mother mostly, and by my father in some sense. I was lucky enough to have them both in the family, both in the home. When I got out on my own, then I had to parent myself, as somebody said in the chat, I think earlier. The only model that I had was the one that I knew. So I started to parent myself the way that I was parented. And as I got out in the world, then I found other ideas, and sometimes I just bolted them onto what I already had, and in some cases I swapped them out for some things that I had, and that was also an interesting story. So when we get out, that's what we do. We parent ourselves based on the way we were parented, at least in the beginning, because we don't know any other way. Two comes to mind that you talked about crying, and I love what you said about that, Shelley. When I have mostly grown men, but sometimes grown women, sit in front of me, and at some point in time, if it's not the first, second, third, maybe it's the fourth session, and they start to cry. And then they start to apologize. This is what I tell them, and I'd like to share this with you, if I may, and with the people on the call. So they look, if I were, so they say, oh, sorry, if I were to tell you, how do I explain this to you instead of a client? If I were to tell you that I had a client in front of me last week and they broke down, you would know what happened. They were crying, all right? It's kind of like Nike. When Nike first came out, they had Nike with the Just Do It and the check mark, and they had to pronounce the name. For the people of us in North America, we would have called it Nike because it looks like right? Or Mike, but it's Nike. After a while, they stopped putting the name up and they just had Just Do It. Now they just have the check mark. You still know it's Nike though, don't you? When you see that check mark on somebody's blazer or somebody's hat, you don't have. So this is a huge marketing plan that they had developed and executed over about 25 years, going from Nike, Just Do It, to just the check mark, and you still know it's Nike. So we have this whole...
Nike is the goddess of victory, in case
yeah. So we have this whole notion where if I told you that I had a client in front of me last week and they broke down. I wouldn't have to say they broke down and cried. Now, let's put that on the shelf over there for a moment. If I told you that, my car broke down last week, and you think, oh yeah, gee, that's bad, Chess. Like, that's negative, isn't it? I mean, God, sorry about that. Like that's a very unfortunate and a very negative event. So we as humans now, the language being what it is, at least my dominant language, English language, my first language, we take that word breakdown and we put it into another context. So he broke down and cried. He broke down. So then all of a sudden, this is considered to be something that's negative, something that's not, something that you'd rather not have to have or do or deal with or be a part of or even be the one that's done it. Especially as men, because, we're tall, can't do that, can't do that. The only thing we can do is either be angry or happy, but nothing in between. Oh, bullshit. Anyways, so I tell my client, say, look, here's the thing, right? It's not a matter of breaking down. It's not something crying is not something that's negative. It's not a malfunction. It's not like when my car broke down, yeah, it malfunctioned and it broke down, honest to God. It malfunctioned. It was a negative event on a lot of different levels. But when we as humans cry, that's not a malfunction. That's just another way we express another emotion. And I tell my clients, and I tell you this, after we all do it. I've done it recently, actually, a few weeks, maybe a month or so ago. When we sit down and we have a good cry, don't we always feel better afterwards? So I always kid my clients and say, maybe what we should do is we should start a campaign. Why don't we write the Prime Minister and suggest that maybe we have a National Cry Day. Everybody stay home, on a bank holiday Monday and have a long weekend, have a good cry, and we all come out the next day. The whole nation will feel a lot better because we all would have had that cry and we all feel better. And people just laugh at me like y'all are laughing at me now. But I would leave that with you. The only other thing I wanted to say is you talk about group dynamics. Yes, it's one thing to be able to teach people. Yes, you go and get yours while everybody else sings, and you go and get yours, and you go and get great. I love that. Why didn't I think of that? But the other thing is, what about the other side of the coin? As Shay was saying, I'm not sure this is the point she was making, but the other side of the coin is that what about then teaching people how to get on in a group? So when they all go for their coats, they're not all, that animal instinct doesn't get out. Because at some point in time, they have to go out into the world, and there's other people out there. I'd like to hear I'd like to hear you talk about that if you can, and maybe you can share that with us. Thank you.
Well, you just made a really good point, because the inner child and other adults has come out so strongly to me lately, especially in group situations, because I look at children and I'm like, wow, you're doing perfectly good at being a child today. And no child is imperfect to me, by the way. I think they're all absolutely perfect and beautiful. They don't need to change at all. The adults around them need to change. But what I see in adults in group situations is the fact that they're just children. They act like children. And so when I look at an adult, I see their child. And it gives me compassion. So when I'm in a group situation with adults, I see the person over there that that when they were a child got attention by their negative behavior. Mm-hmm. I see the child that got their attention by being the good child. And so it's creating that safety container in adults. And also it's like, so if I'm in an adult group, I'm not going to give you just like a child. I'll have a child acting up. I don't give them my attention. So over time, they figure out that that's not how they're going to get my attention. It's the same in a group situation with adults. If you're being negative, I might take you aside and I might say, I think you need to be heard. Let me give you a container where I can hear you. But I'm not going to give you attention in the group. I'm going to focus on who's doing what I want them to do, not on who's doing what I don't want them to do.
So that leads back into what I had been speaking about originally earlier when I led off the discussion by saying, well, we can only do out there as good as we're doing it in here. So what you're saying is you're saying, well, you're teaching adults how to be with themselves so then they can have a better social experience when they have to be with other people in a group.
And love and forgive themselves because they're perfect. They're perfect at being human today. And I see that, David, I need to get off so you guys can all get a hold of me. And I'd love to continue on this conversation. My heart is to protect the children in this world and to heal the child in us all. From my heart to your heart.
Well, from that, I actually now look at politicians and our world leaders completely different, and it makes more sense.
Excellent. Excellent. First of all, I'd like to make a very huge apology to Shay, because I don't know what time it is in the UK right now.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
It's 1 a.m. and I'm asking, oh, Shay, look, Shay, I owe you the world. You have a lot of patience. Shay, we will not keep you any further. Robert, you have some slides for Shay. Can you put that up so that she can make a presentation and hopefully get some sleep and not hate me tomorrow?
I don't hate you, don't worry.
Okay,
it's all good, David.
She'll just file some motions and she'll see you in court. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
I'm the wrong person to upset.
Exactly. This lady fights like no other. Guys, before she comes on, I want to just say a few things. Shay is a barrister. She's a courtroom attorney. This is not the place to ask legal skills, all right, about your personal stuff, okay? We're trying to find solutions for the general world situation, and she's going to be giving us a little bit of her expertise. Please don't ask her legal advice at this point, right? So, guys, if you are ready, Robert, if you have her slides, could you just put her on, please? Robert, are we here? Yes, we are. Go ahead, Shay.
Thank you. So, as I said, I'm going to be talking about some inspirational courtroom stories. We are from all over the world today, so I don't think it would be appropriate for me to give legal advice. It's not going to fit in your state or your country probably anyway. So let's learn some things from some things that other people have done in my experience. And I've spelled inspired like that because it's my brand as well that we set up on having a voice. And a quick acknowledgement, some of the images that you'll see are done by a lovely gentleman called Marcello Gorenman, who illustrated both my books, which are nothing to do with law at all, but you can look them up if you wish. So this is my top 10 of things that we can learn from the world of law, according to me. So let's move on to slide number 10. We've put them in the wrong order. All right, we'll do number 1 then, where I thought I would end. But
we're at 10.
We're going back to 10. Thank you. So number 10 is to not ignore the obvious things that are in front of you when you're thinking about speaking up and thinking about the actions that you take. And the reason you see an image there of spilt milk is I represented a gentleman, a beautiful care worker. We want to take care of the people that care for people that we care about, right? We don't want to treat them like rubbish. So this poor guy got sacked because he threw away a carton of milk. So he got sacked for gross misconduct. He came to me thinking, that's super unfair. And by the way, that milk that I threw away was out of date. So I did actually nothing wrong. I was saving people's health. And so we won that. And the lesson that I take from this, the employer had to pay out for his length of unemployment and, upsetting him and all that sort of thing. It was super obvious for them to just check, why did he throw out the milk? Why didn't anyone think to question him on that and think, maybe this is a really talented guy that does a great job. Let's keep him on, rather than go through, 2-3 days of courtroom battle. And that answer is really in front of you. It's obvious. So don't make it more complex than it needs to be. Let's go to my next one, my number 9. Mediocrity won't do. And so this is one of Marcello's images, and you'll see an image here of a wedding dress, because we're going to visit the world of immigration for this one. And mediocrity won't do on many levels with this story. So I went into court with this couple. They wanted, I think it was the husband wanted the rights to remain in the UK, and the wife was the British citizen. Now, if you want to come to the UK on the basis of marriage, that marriage has got to be genuine, or you've got to be prepared to, have you seen that movie Green Cards? We're going to, where they were questioning the marriage. It's a really old film now. So you can't go to court and have different answers from your partner or anything like that. So this was really quite startling to me, because the wife got asked, why did you marry him? And you can say anything at that point, and this woman comes out with, I don't know. And the judge was furious, as you see the judge's face going, you don't know why you married him and you don't know. And she's like, well, now that we're married, I kind of like him. And, at this point, I'm like head in hands going, okay, they're not going to get their visa. Right? So be careful who you marry, number 1. Mediocrity. I mean, we all are entitled to marry someone we actually love, rather than coming up with the I don't know answer. And then secondly, they asked me when they left the court, so how did we do? And I'm like, you really asking me this question? So I said, that answer wasn't great. And they said, well, we were 70% okay in our answers. Won't that do? I'm like, no, the world, the court, they do not want 70%. You want 100%. And if you can go for outstanding in your life, then go for that, and don't settle for mediocrity. So that's my lesson number 9. So counting backwards, let's go to number 8. So when the slides move to number 8, I am not sure what's happened here.
Robert, are you present?
Sorry?
Oh, no. Robert, are you present? Can you move to
Yeah.
slide 8?
This is the joys of PowerPoint, right? Okay. Well, I'm gonna go just talk about number 8, and the slide will come up at some point. It's about not throwing out the rule book. So, some of us are very anti-rules, anti-establishment and all that, and that's great. But, there are some rules where just don't make life hard for yourself either. So I'll give you an example of this one, which is I've won quite a few cases against the large banking institutions. And again, it's the story of the stupid mistake. So I specialize in employment law. There's something here called ACAS, which gives you guidance as to how to sack someone or how to run a grievance. And I won against this particular bank twice, the BNP Paribas. The case was all over the press, so I will not mind mentioning that. I questioned this person the first time, who is a lawyer of 13 years experience in employment law, apparently. And, I said, well, I'm assuming you know what ACAS is. And, it's just like me scoring cheap points because I'm sitting there in court reading her the law. And I'm like, do you know that that's what the law says? And do you know that, that you didn't do that? And so because she didn't follow that guidance, which was obvious to follow, she looks bad, and they lost. And then, once having made that mistake once, it was fascinating to me that I'm cross-examining the same person again a year later, making the same mistake. And this is a person that works in the legal system. So I get that there are some rules that you want to change, and, you want to make a stand for what you believe is right. And I totally respect that. But then there are some things that can actually help you. So don't throw out the entire rule book just because, you don't believe in some parts of it. There may be some parts of the rule book that actually do help. And I'd say, use it where you can. Otherwise, you sacrifice potentially your entire career in the case of this woman, because of these stupid mistakes. I mean, she didn't actually ultimately lose her job, but some of the things that we found could have led to that. So, there are things in the law that will help as well. So there we go. We finished number 8 now. We're going to move to number 7. And this one is around being honest and succinct. So I think, one of the number one pieces of advice that I give to someone who is about to give evidence in court. I'm not allowed to coach people on how to talk in court or anything like that. It's actually a breach of our professional duties to do that. But I will say, just tell the truth. The truth always shines, is my view anyway. And another example of a case that I did, this is very early on in my career, was a road traffic accident thing. And he had a great story about why, he didn't cause the accident when I spoke to him in conference. But as soon as we got into court and he started being asked questions, there was a whole different story that came out. And the story that came out was the story that he thought sounded better. And there were these long, rambling answers, which don't help. And because it didn't come across well, and because he wasn't straight with the story in his head, we lost that particular matter. And this is the thing, if you start creating stories that aren't true, it's really hard to keep that straight. Whereas if you stick with the truth or what you believe to be true, I think that's always going to help you. And you don't have to go round the houses to, explain a point. There's no need to talk about the same thing for half an hour or so when you can make that point in a sentence. So that's one thing that I will share with witnesses also. So we'll move on to counting down to number 6. This one is about being true to yourself and who you are. So it's kind of related to that. And this isn't so much a client story, but it's really a me story. Now, as you might have picked up from the bio, I don't just do law with my life. I do a background of many, many things. And one of my clients picked that up. He was on divorce number 3 and wife number 4. So this is a family case. And he happened to find one of my websites that was nothing to do with law at all. And he went to the person that had recommended me and he said, "Who is this woman? Does she even do law? I don't want her representing me. She does all sorts of other things and I'm not happy about it." He was quite rude about me. And I thought, do you know what? The person that recommended me actually came and told me off. He's like, "I want you to take your websites down. This is unprofessional." And I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I am who I am. He can, hire me or not. It doesn't bother me. I'm not desperate for, his custom if that really isn't a fit." So I kind of stayed true to who I was. And I did go to court with him. He didn't sack me in the end. He'd had me do his case. And I got him a hell of a result. In fact, I think if he gets divorced again, he would come back to me. And I did that just kind of letting go of the noise. I'm like, I'm going to forget about all these insults that have been thrown at me and just do what I know I'm good at. And if I never see him again, it's fine. It doesn't affect my life. And I got the most unexpected result from all of that. Not only did we get a great result, but it was also this particular person said to me at the end, "Do you know why I didn't sack you?" And it was because his new wife was a Reiki master. And she saw my picture and she said, "That woman will look after you, so don't sack her." And he said, "I'm really sorry." And you don't often get that from someone who's been so vicious. So I think if you're true to yourself, sometimes you will get those results that you don't really expect in life. So moving on then to number 5. My number 5 is don't get lost in a useless story. And this is, leading on from Patty's example. What stories do we want to have in life? Do we want to have the empowering story, or do you want to be lost in a victim story? Because you always have a choice about which story you're going to follow. And there's got to be some point in life where you just dump that emotional baggage. And I see it a lot, actually. It does make me really sad. And I'll use another client example here. I represented this gentleman who unfortunately was physically assaulted at work, and it led to an injury. And he was a lovely man, very attractive, actually, married to a wife that looked like Marilyn Monroe, and they had a beautiful child as well. And I'm like, wow, they came in looking like models when they first came to me. And, he's got so much to be grateful for in life. Lots of people want to be married to someone that looks like Marilyn Monroe, no less, and, have this beautiful family. And, he can work as something else. He can get another job. And yet for 5-6 years, he'd been lost in the story of this one incident that really upset him. And I'm like, we will deal with that. That's fine. But he just couldn't get past that. And, we got offered a great settlement. I said, you need to take this. He didn't. And he was just lost. He wanted to fight it out. We lost in the end, as I advised him that, we probably would. And there we are, and he ended up sort of harassing me, unfortunately, and the court and everyone else involved. And, his wife confided in me that she was, this was not the man that she fell in love with either. So getting lost in a useless story like that can ruin your whole life. And sometimes I think we just need to take a good step back and think about, look, I've been given some gifts in life too. And what can I really be grateful here? And what is really serving me here? And how can I find empowering meanings from what I've gone through? So I think this is a very important one. Moving on then, number 4. This is just a little reminder for everyone. David beat Goliath. So going back to the old biblical story there, and it is possible to do that. And I have 2 examples for lessons how you can do that. Number 1, as I said, is just to be smart about it. So 2 of the biggest cases I won, which were like unbelievable wins given the resources of the other side, were won just for these reasons. Now, the one that I think was smart, she was against someone in the House of Lords. And I won't say too much about it because he's still very upset that we won that. But he shouted at her on a telephone call. And that must be so difficult to hear. And some of the language was awful. And the tonality was very distressing. But in the moment, she thought to record the conversation. And I don't know what made her do it, but she did. And that's one of the big reasons we won, because given that this person's public image, that is not what he projects in public, and that is not something he'd ever want anyone to hear. So take those opportunities when they come and use them. And I'm not saying record every conversation. In fact, that's probably not allowed. But, that moment for her and what made sense in the moment for her and following that has really led to an amazing result for this lady. And then the conviction piece is one of my other big wins. We got awarded the first equal pay audit that the UK has ever awarded in a case against a massive multinational. And they've never done that. And this person's conviction of, I'm coached by William Whitecloud, if you've heard of him. And he always talks about being in the end result. And this person, kind of was in the end result of, I want to make a change and I know that this is right. And just followed that thread and followed that piece all the way through, really consistently, really diligently, really dedicatedly. And we got there. So it's a historic win in many ways, with me against like this highly resourced multinational legal team. So it can be done, but you really need to be in the right space and have the right conviction to do it. So then we'll go to my number 3, and this is about finding empowering meanings and a higher purpose. Now, I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I've already talked about story as well. But the case that I think of here is one that we lost, one which we weren't thinking that we were going to lose. And that client has inspired me to this day. In fact, we've become quite good friends, which is unusual. But I was just so moved by the meaning that this person made from that loss. And it's incredible, And this is actually one of the primary questions. There's this particular person asks herself, what am I learning from this? And how can I help this, move me forward positively in my life? So the loss on that occasion, actually she was in another court battle on a totally different matter, but one that had like such significant meaning to her life in comparison to the one that we did about her employment. That, those lessons from how she came across, how she dealt with the questions in this particular case, the meaning that she took from that is, if I'd won, I would never have had that lesson or that motivation to change, to have like that great performance in the other matter that was more significant to that person. So in your life, what is the higher and empowering meaning that you can make from things, even if they're things that you don't want and you don't like? There is going to be a higher purpose and a higher meaning to why that happened. And you know what, you'll have a much happier existence if you start looking for meaning in life in that way. We'll go to our number 2. We're winding up. Your heart knows the answer is number 2. And I will, take that as to just follow your heart, in the decisions that you make, in the way that you speak. I'm not someone who makes a lot of notes. I mean, I've done slides tonight because I thought other people were doing slides. But, if you speak and come from that place of just following your heart, you will have a much better quality of life. And again, taking this from the courtroom, people always tell me about, wow, you're so good at the closings, they're really impassioned or fierce or whatever the moment needs to be. And I think the reason that I do that, it doesn't come from up here. I mean, to some extent, I've taken on the words and the information and stuff, and then you just channel what you need in the moment. And I think the way that you do that, the easiest way to do that is just breathe into your heart and just take like a moment to do that, kind of like, Melissa did a little earlier with with her lovely technique as well. And then just taking that breath and thinking, what answer lies here? And if I were to speak from that place, what would I say? How would I say it? And like, there's some such gold and power in there. So if you were always to do that when you communicate, that will take you leaps and bounds, I think. And then my number 1, which you've seen at the beginning anyway, is to be your higher self. And a bit earlier in this round table, I mentioned that anyway, but it's something that I'm really passionate about, is like really living in the place where you are your higher self. And so if you're your higher self, when you are, I don't know, in court, in conflict, in whatever the situation is, that self is always going to react better than the base self. So, and how do we get into the higher self? I'll spend a few moments on talking about that. To me, that is your best self. If you believe in God, it's the self that like God intended you to be in this world. There is always that version of you versus the version of you that's angry with your partner or whatever it is, right? And so I think a powerful way to tap into that is to name that energy. I won't do it right now because it's like a 10-minute process. I don't think we have the time necessarily. But, it could just be in morning meditation or whatever. Center yourself and just connect in with that energy of, who am I at my highest and best? What do I look like at my highest and best? I mean, what does this person like to wear? What qualities does that person have? And then just ask that person, when you see that person in your mind's eye, like, what name do you want me to call you by? And any name is fine. Like, I've seen all sorts of names come up in that process. But then you have a reference. If you name it, you have a reference to who your higher self is, and to call on that energy whenever you need. And, in those moments that you get nervous, in those moments where you think, I'm really got by this, I'm really irritated by this, have a think about what would your higher self do? Because the highest and best version of you will always know how to respond. And like your heart will always know what the best thing is to do. And so I think part of that has led to my success in the courtroom. I also do stage a lot. And so, it's an energy that I used to channel into when I go on stage or anything like that. So, you can use that in your lives as well, in any event, like the parenting, like anything else. So I hope that some of those lessons from the courtroom have given you some food for thought, and I will open it up to questions or whatever else.
Your witness.
That was extremely candid. That was extremely candid. Like, that was the kind of presentation that really doesn't. So, Shay, I suppose I'm going to force a question nonetheless.
Go
Shay,
for it.
in your experience in law and so on, you gave us a bunch of pointers, a lot of them actually. In terms of application, if I come into your office, right, I sit down in front of you, Shay, I have a problem and stuff like that. And you're going to see people who are very agitated on a general basis. Some of these people have been treated badly, some of them. How do you get them to come into all of these processes that you just mentioned?
Well, I think it starts with the art of rapport, and I'm sorry, I'm Tony Robbins trained. So my dad was into Tony. So I like got grown up with that. But he always says the step number one for creating lasting change is understand and appreciate their world. And so that's kind of what you do. So when someone comes to me on the phone, I'll listen, and I'll get into that core question that I think not enough people know the answer to. What do you want? Some people want the battle. Some people want to, just get a nice settlement and go back to their life. Some people just want a new job, whatever, and it could be like a much bigger thing, but what do you really want? And so I tend to ask them that as a starting point. And the other thing is, I might not share any of those techniques with them. It depends on who you're dealing with, right? So one client came to me because her theta healer practitioner said, oh, you should go to Shay because she knows how to use a pendulum. And she's a bit of an intuitive as well, so you'll like her. So this lady sacked a very eminent barrister on like a massive multi-million prenup case, trying to get me to get her out of her prenuptial agreement. And part of me is thinking, you hired me because I use a pendulum. So I was a bit nervous about that, but that this is the person's world, so that's fine. If you got that recommendation because that's the side of me you want to see, then that's cool. So I can speak to that person on a different level to the person who is like, I deal with a lot of hardcore banking people as well, and I'm not going to tell them about necessarily intuitive development until I can see like that little chink of openness. And then you can get in there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I get it. And so most of the people who come to you, they're going to come to you with a particular case. In terms of moving them to accept, let's say, I'm going to say this, defeat as an example. Is that something you broached before? Because
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I believe in 100% honesty.
Mhm.
You know, so I forgive that. I'm not going to bullshit you. Forgive the language. I don't need the money. Well, I mean, you know, everyone could do with more money, but I'm not in a place where I'm like, you know, thinking, oh my God, I need you as a client to pay off my mortgage, right? I care about my integrity and my honesty. And if someone comes to me and says, look, you know, this is the deal, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say, if you don't have a hope in hell of winning. And in fact, I did this quite recently. I said to someone, you want me to write the appeal? This is how much I'm going to charge you. And you have like a 5% chance of success. So honestly, if I were you or you were my sister or something like that, then I'd be saying to you, you know what, go spend that money on a nice holiday or whatever. You know, don't come to me because you're wasting your time, your energy. And like, if that person then still wants to do it, then, you know, at least I have a clear conscience and I've been super clear with them about what's possible and what's not possible. If I think they're going to win, that's great. You know, I'll give them a number. I'll be like, do you know what? Yeah, you could win and this is what you may get, but do you really want all the publicity? And actually, if you had this kind of number as a settlement, then would that be better for you?
Mm-hmm.
So you just always, again, going back to that core foundational question, what do you want? And, you know, then be super clear. This is, I think, what my job is. This is what your paths look like. You know, I'm not here to tell you which path to take. I'm just here to show you that if you go down this path, I've got like a legal crystal ball, you know, which is not 100% accurate, you know, but with my, you know, 19 years of experience, I can give you maybe a little bit of accuracy around that. And then it's up to you. And then when the defeat comes, if it comes, then, you know, I hope you will have God's grace to accept it, like the client that I talked about. And, you know, it was just actually so beautiful to see. There'll be a life lesson in there for you, and you can choose how you take that. And, you know, I hope to God that you take it in an empowering way.
Excellent. Well, I am actually going to move on. And the reason why I'm going to move on is because I believe we're half hour over. Guys, thank you, first of all, for being here. Robert, if I can just do one thing, could you please cue that CNN report that I gave to you? And then I will start my section so that the guys know what's going on and where I'm coming from. Can you do that right now?
I don't believe I got that one.
It's a video.
I've got the doodle and I've got the Facebook investigative guy.
Yes, that one.
Okay. Okay.
Guys, I want you to watch this instructively it's only 2 minutes long, but it's very educational, and all of you guys, and I want the panelists to also come in on this, because I got this off of CNN's archives, and I would like you to watch this. Go ahead, Robert.
How does your Facebook feed become so politically polarized? In the summer of 2019, Facebook ran an experiment to find out. It created a fake account for a 41-year-old mom living in North Carolina. They called her Carol Smith. Carol started off by liking a few popular conservative Facebook pages like Fox News, Donald Trump, and Melania Trump. But quickly, Facebook began dragging her down a rabbit hole of misinformation. After only 2 days, Facebook recommended Carol follow a QAnon page. And a few days later, it suggested she follow another. This experiment was never meant to be made public, but details about it were included in documents leaked by Facebook whistleblower Frances Hogan, who says the company is not doing enough to crack down on conspiracy theories and online hate.
And they know that algorithmic-based ranking, so engagement-based ranking, keeps you on their sites longer. You have longer sessions, you show up more often, and that makes them more money.
By week 3 of the experiment, Carol's feed had become, quote, a constant flow of misleading and polarizing content, according to the Facebook employee who was running the account. A lot of us spend way too much time on social media, and when we try to cut back on those apps, companies like Facebook will often send us a push notification to lure us back. That's exactly what happened during this experiment as well. The Facebook employee noted how they were traveling for a conference in the second week of running Carol's account and were checking Facebook a little bit less. And so Facebook began sending push notifications. One notification was actually to a Facebook post claiming Barack Obama was born in Kenya. This was in 2019, years after the ludicrous conspiracy theory had been widely debunked.
What it does is amplify the messages that it knows will drive engagement. And it just turns out we humans get most riled up by lies and hate and all sorts of misinformation.
After running the experiment for 4 weeks, the Facebook employee recommended the platform stop promoting pages that are clearly linked to conspiracy theories like QAnon. But it still took the company more than a year to ban QAnon entirely from its platform, doing so only a few weeks before the 2020 election.
Thank you, Robert. Did everybody listen to that? Did you guys listen to that? I'm going to speak to you as a human, as a soul, to the souls that are still in this chat and the souls that are listening to this broadcast and will be listening to the replay of the broadcast. Okay. Whether you're on the left of a political spectrum or the right of a political spectrum, whether you're vaxxed, whether you're not vaxxed, whether you are tall or short, I don't care what reason you have to start the hate and the division between each other. Think very carefully of some very basic concepts in human nature. You need people to survive, okay? I want you to look at that report and see what social media and the news media are doing to you. Understand it. Examine your own thoughts and think, when I get this steady dose of poison every day, day in, day out, how is it affecting me as an individual? We had Melissa talk to you about how stress in your system, fear, damages your health. We had Chess talk to you about that as well. We had Shelley talk to you about how it's destroying families and how it's making you, you're transferring stuff to your kids. We had Shay talk to you about the value of positivity in courtroom settings, and we had Patty actually painfully show you in a very live example how fear, misinformation, anger, and all those negative emotions are actually taking hold of our entire planet. Okay. Earlier on, I wanted to make a little bit of a strip off of the esoteric community. The reason why that is because if you guys have been in the esoteric community for many, many years, I don't care whether you're just a meditator, whether you're a quantum healer, who a yoga practitioner, or whatever. I have been a yoga teacher, I've been a meditator, I've been all those things. I've actually also been in the secret societies. Here's what I have to say to you guys. If it is that you see the world is going down the rabbit hole of hate and division, and you do nothing, you want to know what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. We're sliding down a particularly dangerous path. It has been coming since the beginning of this pandemic, and it is continuing. So everybody who was disagreeing with each other have become rabid, okay, about it. So what I have to say with regard to that is try to bring to yourself, first of all, a little bit of introspection. Why do I dislike this person? Because of their choices, whether they're medical choices or the choice not to be vaxxed or whatever the case may be. It does not actually matter, because that person still is a human being, and that person you still have to live with on this planet. I want to say this to start off with. The second thing that I want to say is that report that I just put out there, I put it out there for a reason, because this is what one of my major peeves is. If you are going to stop people from speaking, don't poison people at the back end of it. And I'm talking about all the platforms that are doing this, all the news agencies that are doing this. The hate and division, there is no more positivity left in the news anywhere. So here is what I'm going to say with regard to that. I chose to examine the news and do a lot of research on my own. My experience with my research, I'm going to share with you, because I like to experiment, because I don't want to come to you guys talking off the top of my head. Facebook had a policy of actually stopping people from being able to express their business and express their views online. All the big tech companies were doing this for a very long time. They've been doing this ever since they realized that they could get away with it, legally speaking. Okay, there's a lot of legal background to it, but I'll give you what has actually happened. What they're also suppressing is resistance to saying what it is that you find. So the voices of the esoteric community, as an example, who are preaching love and light, have been sectioned off. This is not a statement of David feels this way. This is a statement of fact, and you all know it, or every one of you know it. Okay? For the people who are listening to this, the people that are preaching positivity, they're in a small section of the internet. There used to be a time when I could disagree with you. I'm not going to agree with everything that these panelists said. There used to be a time that I could disagree with you and we could still be friends. That is becoming rarer and rarer. We want to be able to bring back and push back the tide of the negativity that is coming, okay? We want to be able to do that. So I always had a policy in life, and I want you to understand that I wasn't always into law and business, that if you can't beat them, you join them and then beat them, okay? So that has been my policy. So I used to be a practitioner. I used to be a yoga teacher. I used to be a Pilates instructor. There are lots of things that I used to be. Okay. I used to be the registrar for the secret societies all the way in the Caribbean. So I have had my time in the esoteric sphere and in the clinical sphere as a psychotherapist. This is what my response is going to be. My response is going to be that I learned law and I learned business to educate myself, first of all. That's the joining them part. I learned data science as well. And this is what my response is going to be. This is going to be my contribution. For those of you who are not aware, we have created a YouTube-like platform where you can actually put your content. I want to invite every erotic blueprint coach who has been censored, put your stuff on that platform. You're not going to get censored. No, you're not. Not by myself. The only rules that I have on that platform is that there's no violence, no negativity, and no hate. None. That's the rules that I have. If you're not bringing people together and people are censoring you, not necessarily because you are bringing negative messages, but because your message is either too powerful or not popular enough, then I suggest that you seek another platform. We are building a platform. Let me tell you what UCM is about. Thank you, Robert. We are putting content on that platform. A lot of it is free. And if you are a content producer, you can monetize your content. The reason why I waited until the end to reveal this to you guys is because this is what I have planned. I am going to copy all of those tech companies. I am going to do that. Okay, every one of them. And I am going to remove the bullshit. I am. And when I see, for those of you who have known me, whether it be on Andrew's show, whatever else, you know, I'm very plain speaking, right? And Andrew and I were actually having this discussion, and he says, I know you, whenever you say you're going to do something, you're going to get it done. Well, I have gotten it done. The platform is up and running. I invite you, Nikki, if you are there, just drop the link inside there. Go join that platform, see what's on there. And there are no commercials in there. There are no commercials that will annoy you when you start a video. I am going to say this, and I want you to understand that I'm the kind of person that doesn't have a lot of fear in the system. So we're streaming this live to Facebook as I am saying it. So that's the first thing I want to say, where that is concerned. We are going to be leveraging and bringing a whole bunch of advantage to people who are in the wellness community, people who are in the healing arts, and people who are in the esoteric community. Because you guys are not actually realizing that you guys have been cordoned off to a section of the internet. I did a search, and you could do this experiment on your own. Don't take David's word for it, because it's not necessary that you do. Do a search on this randomly, okay? Positive healing content. Go ahead, just put it into a search bar. Scroll down the page and see what you get. Let's do another search. Ask Google, just type in, how does Facebook, why can't I share things from my business page to my personal page? Because they want you to buy the ads. This is some real talk that I'm bringing to you guys here. We at Universal Citizen Media, we're going to be, and this roundtable was part of this, we're going to be bringing you guys solutions that allow you and enable you, all right? Everybody on this panel, we're not in it necessarily only for money. We have our own professions. We have our professions already, and we make money. We're all coaches to some degree or another. We are, okay? This is personal. It is. It is personal because somebody needs to do something about stemming the tide of negativity that is running throughout our communities. I see people stopping their kids from seeing their grandparents. I see people fighting over toilet paper. In a supermarket, you have this chick on TikTok who goes around to public bathrooms licking toilet bowls for attention. Guys, what the hell is happening to our world? If nobody does anything, if everybody remains silent and enjoys the videos where the girl is licking the toilet bowl, like public bathrooms and so on, and we revel and we love that stuff, the debasement of humanity. So I took it upon myself to do a little bit of experimentation and so on, and we are going to be doing something to push back the tide. At the beginning of this year, I said we are going to be disruptive, and I am going to be disruptive. All of the people that you see on this panel are experts in their field. Some of you don't even know who they are. You don't know who they are, and you wouldn't know they are because of algorithms and rankings. Nonsense. All of that is nonsense. They don't want to be popular. They just want to do what they want to do. So the first thing I'm going to say with regard to you as a public, the people who are watching this, is we have a network. Come and join us. And I'll tell you, this is not a fight. This is not a fight. This is, let me get very clear. I have no intention of fighting anybody, okay? What I do have is an intention of making a space where positivity exists. That is where I am coming from. And I couldn't care less about the negativity. Vaxxed, unvaxxed, left, right, esoteric, not esoteric, I don't really care who you are. We're going to deal with you as human beings. And that is my spiel with regard to that. With regard to you guys on a personal level, this is not going to be sorted out by people being enacting policies and all that stuff. It's going to start with the human being. I've said this several times. I'm going to say it again. It's going to start with people just deciding not to be mean to each other. That's where it's going to start. And I want to just leave you guys with this little video that I collaborated with a trauma therapist to do. And I want to show you what this is doing to your nervous system and how it is that you come out of the cycle of this kind of clenched kind of fist inside your chest, inside your body, and how to empty and become clear again, like you were as a child, like you were when you were going to your neighbor's house and you were having barbecues and coffees and whatever else. This is what I want to leave you guys with. Robert, you can roll the nervous system video. This is by Christine Boschner.
Hi there, my name is Christine, and I am here to teach you about your nervous system and how I conceptualize healing the impact of stress situations on the nervous system through managing individual capacities and resilience. Let's start with some basic concepts, shall we? When we come into the world as a baby, we all have a little box, our nervous systems, and each of our little boxes has a capacity. Yep, just like this one. And so, as we go through life, our little box gets filled up with a number of events and situations which have emotional charge to them. Just like this. And so what is the solution, and what do I, as a clinician, do to assist this process? A nervous system which has this much stress in it is not a happy nervous system and does not make for a happy client. So here are a couple of solutions. Solution 1. Make the box bigger. This is an encumbered nervous system. As you can see, the situations and events leave little space for anything else. The technical term for this is overcoupling, which usually comes with a host of other complications and causes. As you can see in the previous diagram, expanding the capacity and resilience of the nervous system to handle situations reduces the load and overcoupling is functionally relieved. Solution 2. Reducing the load in the box. Before, after. By reducing the impact of the events, we create more capacity in the nervous system. Of course, working with the nervous system is not as simple as that. However, this shows that it is possible to reduce the impact of negative events and situations on the individual. If you have any more questions on this topic, feel free to sign up for our online course or visit my website at www.heartsamadi.com. Bye for now.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Robert. That is a very simple technique to do. You either remove the things that are toxifying you, that would be the news, social media, reduce the balls in the box, or increase your capacity to love other people. Pretty much, that's what my solutions are. One of two solutions is going to work, or both solutions can work. So that's my spiel. I wanted to wrap this up really quickly. For those of you who are interested in our network that we are building of positive people who are here to actually assist you, please go to the portal at universalcitizen.net. Universal Citizen, it's a portal page. We have an open blog site where we're accepting articles from you. So if you're a practitioner, if you are a teacher, a healer, send us your articles, whether they be vlogs, and we will publish them. Because if you have trouble getting them published anywhere else, we will publish them. Okay? As long as you are trying to promote the light and the positivity in the world, we will do it. And we will put your stuff out there. We will find platforms, and you have a home for your stuff somewhere, even if it's unpopular anywhere else. That is where I am coming from. I have to sign off very soon because yeah, I have a curfew to attend to. I would not like to spend the night in jail. So I have about 10 minutes to get home. So Monty, I'm going to pass this over to you so that I don't get arrested. And take care, guys. I will see you soon.
Thanks,
All
David.
right. Well, yeah, as David flees from the police. I think should we continue on, because I think most people want to go anyway. So I mean, we did have an idea for a Q&A, but it's what, month 7 of this roundtable. So I can hang out for a little bit. I live in Melbourne, so you don't do much here. So so what would you're the panelists, you're the ones who will have the question asked too. Do you need to go, or do you want to stick around for a question or two? Or
I've got about 5 minutes and then I have patience. So I'm going to have to go. But if anyone has a quick question for me, I've got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll say the same. It's nearly 2 a.m. here. So if you've got any quick questions,
yeah.
take them.
Well, yeah, put into the chat any quick questions. Make them closed so it's a yes or no answer. No. So if there's any questions for our panelists, and if not, we'll wrap it up, because we did the long haul. We've done our bit and a bit more.
There's a question.
Is QBI like Reiki?
No, it's not. Quick answer. Is quantum bioenergetics like Reiki? No, we work in quantum communication. Reiki works in energy. These frequencies actually work very, very basic level, working in energy. As you move away with energy, it gets weaker. In quantum bioenergetics, the further away you get, the stronger the communication and flow gets. So that's how we identified it was in fact quantum mechanics that we were dealing with, just because it broke all Newtonian structure. So as you'd expect. But no, it actually works in it. It does have an energetic realm, and you'll find that if you work in energetic modalities, I have to think of the word, anything from pranic, Reiki, any of that, QBI only enhances it, makes it even better. It's amazing.
And I know the answer, so I'll just end it. But can you do a remote?
Oh, yeah. Look, I do. I am available for healing sessions. I do remote healing sessions. I'm going to quickly answer the question you're all wondering. Does this work on viruses? Yes, it does. It's actually very effective on viruses. And
yes,
so,
I've seen
it. Yeah, that's right. Monty's worked with me for a long time. He's seen an awful lot of what I do. But it's if you go to the website, melissahawkinghughes.com or qbihealing.com, you can have a look up at some of the information. If you go to universalcitizens.org, it's .org, yes.
.net.
You'll find all the links there to take you where you want to go, to all of us, all of the panelists that are on here. You'll be able to find us information where people, I'm sorry to speak for everyone on the panel, but we're on our time. Everyone has courses and training, books, amazing information for you to follow up. I'm not advertising for them. I'm just saying you've got great information today, and if you want to follow up, whatever resonates with you, please chase it up.
And just give you a website again, Melissa.
Mine? QBIhealing.com.
Yeah, because like
somebody was asking for everyone's link.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there have been links in the chat, and I'm guessing there'll be links in the freebies in the description of said stuff. I'm just the comic relief, and then the man who's got the brain left.
Well, the other half of the brain is still here.
Yeah,
we'll have the
rabbits.
links in the YouTube show descriptions. We'll send it out in email, and we'll make sure everyone is reachable.
Well, yes, because they sort of had to register, didn't they? So we have your email addresses. So we're spamming. No. Sorry, I was thinking of a corporation. You'll be you'll get the links for everybody involved. And so, any other questions that I can see?
You're being
Andrew's
asked
on assignment. Andrew's on assignment. I'm going to say that till he comes back. Andrew is on assignment, and I'll let Andrew explain stuff. So, of course, there's all of this praise on me. I mean, everyone else. Any passing thoughts? Any final thoughts, everybody? Though I'll just go across the screen that I can see. No, I'll go the other way. Chess, any final thoughts for for the audience?
No. I'm just trying to unmute myself. No, I think everything is. No, I've learned a lot, and I appreciate my.
That's a thought. There you go. You had a thought. You share your thoughts. So yeah, good. And we'll try and do this again, I think, because it worked well. So we've made friends, everyone. Coach, Shelley, any final thoughts?
I enjoyed it. Enjoyed being a part of this with all of you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shay, while you cling to being awake.
This lovely lady in the chat said I have something to say, and now I feel like I need to say something really meaningful. So I'm going to say this. Ask yourself great questions in life. So where I talked about what do you want, what questions are you waking up to in the morning, and what do you ask yourself? I think that's always really lovely to think about. And, is it a question that brings you joy? Is it a question that brings you stress? And if it's the latter, and for most of the population, it's the latter, then, play with it. Choose one that brings you joy.
Carl Jung actually did that as an experiment. He would fall asleep with a gold pen between his two fingers. And as he would drift off, the pen would drop and land on a tray. And the first thing that he thought when he woke up, he wrote down. And he did that for, months and months and months. Apparently, he only came up with 2 new ideas, but it's similar. So when you wake up, your dreams may be fresh in your mind, and what is the mind sort of like? Okay, we need to work on this. So write that down. Cool.
I have a good one.
Stories, Patty. Any final thoughts?
This has been an absolute joy to be here with all of you on the panel and with you, Monty. I feel like we are writing a collective story, and it's a fantastic one. So I really appreciate being here.
Yes, it's fascinating to let everything unfold. The universe it's doing its thing. I just finished watching all the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, so I identify with Gandalf. So I'm a 7,000-year-old wizard that is tired. And Melissa, how you going? All right? You're muted.
I think she's saying she needs to go.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, no, look, thank you so much to everyone that came on board with us and came into the lounge room with us and shared. We're so glad you're here, because what David said is true. We're all here to make positive change. We want to turn this around. And so anything we can do to help you do that, it's our privilege. So thanks for being there. I'm going to have to go. I love you all heaps. Thanks so much to all the panelists who are just the most awesome of people. Love you guys. And hopefully we'll see you again. I think it's a great idea that we play this one more time. Yeah. So, okay. Yes. I'll see you later, guys. I'm going to have to step out.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to do that as well. So they're wrapping it up. And so universalcitizenmedia.net. I believe that's the correct way of saying it. That's the new platform, and we're all on it, and onward and upward in a positive way. So thank you all, one and all. And if you're watching the video version of this, just like or subscribe, or share it to anyone that you think may like it. So I hope we achieved something. There's positivity out there. It's perception and outlook. And in basic talk, we'll win. I just don't know how we're going to get there, but we win in the end. So thank you very much, everyone. Robert, take it away, as Andrew used to say.
Tomorrow's destiny.